While we're waiting, I'll mention for those of you who don't look regularly at the Longwood website, we have a very interesting program coming up next month that might be of interest. It's called Growing Unique Veggies and Herbs. It's an entirely online program. It's hosted by Longwood's uh, ornamental kitchen gardener, and then also one of the gentlemen who runs a local seed company called True Love Seeds, based out of Philadelphia or near Philadelphia. And they spend about an hour and a half just talking all about, different unusual vegetables and herbs that you can grow in your garden. And also, what I think is really interesting is they talk about how to grow foods that are relevant to your cultural background. So it's a really interesting program. And then actually at the end of the program, we ship everyone 5 packets of seeds from True Love Seeds. And it's a nice collection of different things to try. So it's a really great program. If anyone is looking for something to do, I think it's on a Tuesday evening next month. Highly recommend checking that one out. I'll put the link for it in the chat in case anyone's interested. All right, I think everyone is in, Ellen, so I will hand it over to you.
Oh, good. Well, I'm going to sign up for that class. Absolutely. And it's nice that I'm going to be talking today about seeds and local
There we go.
regional seeds, and True Love is local regional. So that's where anybody in your area should be getting seeds from them. So that sounds like a great program and a real bonus to get some free seeds. Like, who doesn't want that, right? So I'm signing up for that for sure. Maybe I'll see some of you others there too. Um, okay, so hi everybody. I'm going to go into a different view. I'm going to go into gallery so I can see everybody's beautiful faces. Hi, how you doing? How's the week
Good.
been? It's a tough one, huh? Yeah, so we're going to just sort of escape into the garden world for 2.5 hours, which will be really fun. Um, I want to start by saying I was just blown away by the work you all did. I mean, it was so exciting to just open up. So when I go through it, I open up your JPEGs and I read what some of you gave me a nice description of what you were working on and things, and then I try and relate it. And it was so much fun because I could really see the progress. I feel like you're starting to turn the corner a little bit. And I think after today's class, you're going to go, wow, I'm really into this. I'm going to get this, this new garden in or change things around. And so it's exciting for me as a teacher. I have 2 kids who are both teachers, and I was sharing with my son, like, oh my God, this is the best part, isn't it? And he goes, yep, Mom. And I said, but grading and trying to figure out all that stuff is the hardest. Yep. So anyways, we don't need to think about that. Everybody who turns something in gets my praise for sure. And you all are just doing beautiful work. And I think the fun thing about today's class that you're going to find a little different than last time is, and I'm going to full screen here, is rather than wait to show your work at the end, I've integrated it into the class. We're going to do a bunch of it right in the beginning, then we're going to have some in the middle, because really this is not about me telling you or saying this is the way this happens. It's all about sharing and looking at other work. I think you're going to get so much out of just seeing how other people have addressed some of these, questions or challenges or been creative. And I think it's just going to spark your own ideas. So I'm hoping that that you'll either feel comfortable unmuting and piping in and saying, I really like where you put that bench, or you can just put something in the comments and we can just keep checking that as well. So this is all about learning from each other and doing this together. So
Hey,
before we get started with the slides, does anybody have anything specific
yeah,
they want to say? Hi, Anne. Yes.
so I'm clearly behind, but somehow the first class I was able to find those designs that that you could use, and
Yes.
I can't find them now.
Oh,
Is there a link, or could somebody give me a link? Anybody to that page where there's a series of them in some slides,
right.
right?
In a resource. Well, they're in a resources, so I think you can download.
Oh, okay. That's where I must
And
have
I
not.
haven't checked that to see, but Yeah,
I
I
know
was,
I saw them. I saw them the first class, and then I couldn't find them
yeah.
but
Thanks. I haven't gone back to check on that, but we can, I can work on you with that or maybe during the break, we can do that. Good
okay,
question. Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
Thanks.
absolutely. Um, Anybody else have any questions? No? Okay, great. Um, Good. So I am going to reduce this and go get right started into our little class here. We're going to have, oh, I know a couple things else that I wanted to say, but I'm going to, oh gosh, sorry. Sorry, everybody. You know what? I'm so used to having a big screen, and then when I do this, I have to have the camera, so then I do into that. Couple other things I wanted to say. One is, that I noticed how just a few of you put in photos, and I think that's great because you're really using your visual sense of how you want this to look. But if you want to start adding photos, you're welcome to do that. But the most important thing is to make sure when you send, if this is possible, to use the JPEG rather than a PDF, or I guess you're not really using the hike or whatever that one is, the HEIC. So using the JPEG, and if you can put your name in it, then it's helpful because when I'm translating it into the slideshow, I have to take everything out and then rename it and then sometimes turn it into a JPEG. So that just takes me a lot more time. Just saying. Okay, sharing. There's always the tricky part. Does it work? Is it going to work? All right, how's that, everybody? Good? Great, great, great. I'm going to move this over to here, put me on here. Okay. So this class is called The Art of Growing Food, and I want to keep emphasizing that word art because I don't spend a lot of time talking about how to grow food, although all of these elements of design will lead to that. We will be talking about seeds today and seed saving and a little bit about how to start seeds, but I really want to keep focusing on the beauty of the garden and how important it is to really continue to be thinking of your space as a sanctuary. Make sure it's, turning work into play really involves adding elements of style, which many of you did in your garden designs. And we're going to continue to look at beautiful gardens and what is that makes them so appealing and inspiring and makes us want to just sit on that bench and stay a while. But in this class, we're going to start turning the corner from focusing specifically on design to really getting going with the nuts and bolts of gardening, which starts with seeds and plants. And as an heirloom seed saver, I'm going to talk a little bit about seed saving basics and really introduce you to the concept of actually looking at seeds and figuring out plant families in order to know how to start saving seeds, and then how to read seed catalogs and what to grow. I'm going to share with you what I consider my 80-20 rule. So I always start with this template, which you have in your resources, and it's the 6 steps to successful design. And we're going to be talking today about plant materials and how do you add these. And I noticed many of you did put plants right in your garden already, and you're going to continue to put them in your garden. And maybe you already say, oh, I already know what I'm planting, but maybe after today's class, you might have some new ideas about what you want to put in your garden. So creating a plan involves rotating crops each year to build the soil and enhance the nutrients that the plants receive. And each spring and fall, building the soil with compost and other amendments, and selecting plant varieties that you cannot buy at the market with exceptional flavor and color. So really choosing your plant material carefully because you don't really necessarily want to grow the same old things you can buy in the grocery store. You really want to focus on exceptional flavor, exceptional beauty, and in that upcoming class, the growing vegetables and herbs from local seed sources whenever possible. So just as a quick review, this past week we were looking at what is your style, and isn't it wonderful that we all start with the same, more or less the same things: seeds, plants, soil, garden beds, garden benches, arbors, all the things that we've been talking about. But each one of our gardens is a little different. I think this is a wonderful example of adding flowers directly in your vegetable garden. It's that wonderful thing that we talked about last time, which is controlled chaos. It's a little plant here, a little plant there, but everything looks like it's thriving. So why not just let it go? Because everybody's happy. So most of you did a great job of adding at whimsy with maybe with a fountain or a greenhouse. I want to say all of you did a great job with doing this. I think you really your designs were colorful and creative and whimsical, and I really enjoyed seeing your process. And most of you added tutors and arbors and garden sheds and whether or not those get built or done in this first year doesn't really matter because you have your 5-year plan. And thinking about that garden gate and how you want to integrate a wonderful garden great gate that creates that portal into the garden. And this is a wonderful example of a garden in New Hampshire where the gate was designed around the shape of the stones, those beautiful round stones, and the gate mimics that as well. And adding height with a trellis or an arbor, whether it's just a simple bamboo arbor or a custom-made strawberry trellis, it's really up to you, and you can change them around and move them around and continue to build different things in different spots. Making sure that there's a nice place to sit, whether it's just a simple chair or a nice garden bench, and having an artful focal point. This wonderful thing came off, it looks like it must have come off the top of a church steeple or something. And what a lovely garden it landed in Charlotte, Vermont. And then that beautiful bench, it looks very custom made, but I know we're all planning to put benches in our garden, so finding something that's comfortable and really fits the space is going to be the key. I wanted to share this with you because everybody's having trouble with fences. And I feel like I could do a whole class just on fences. What do we have? How can you combine having something like a beautiful, rustic fence, but also deal with deer? And this is a gal who took my garden class a number of years ago, and she's up in White River Junction area in Vermont. And what I like about what she's done, and you might be able to see this, is that she basically has a nice, the post and rail fence, but then she has these things, and you can see that there's really just fishing line. There's just a very simple little line, and she's got 3 bars of it. And deer don't like running into things that they can't see or they can't figure out. And this is what she has found has really kept the deer out of her garden. So creating an invisible fence, so to speak, for those deer may be a solution to how to not have to build something that looks like a batting cage around your garden. And look at that view. Isn't that beautiful? She's up on top of a hillside. So I want to start with review, and I did this alphabetically, so there's no special order, but Anna, are you with us today? Are you here, Anna? No? Okay. Well, I love this design. Anna produced one design. She said she's been very busy with kids at home and snow days and stuff. But sometimes all you need is just one design. And I just think this is so pretty, whether or not, it's something that she can implement, because spirals are very tricky. And I know other people did spirals, and I don't want to discourage you from doing a spiral, but I do just think the way she's laid this out and really followed the graph paper so that she knows how wide the beds are going to be and how the paths are going to be. It's just so colorful and so simple. So congratulations, Anne. I think you're on your way to something really nice. And I love the way she's put the table and chairs in the center there so that you actually go into that space and then you feel like you really are in a sanctuary garden. Anne, are you with us today?
Hi, hi, Ellen. Yes, I'm here. Thank
Oh,
you.
good, good, good. So Anne, I, I remember, as I remember, you're in Colorado, right, with a beautiful view.
That's me.
Get
That's
that
me.
right?
Yeah.
And you built these raised beds, and so the challenge for you is to come up with something that's a little unusual. And you led me to that what's the name of that company that makes these beautiful trellises here in
Um, that's
Garrett?
Wade Garrett.
Yeah.
Because I actually was going to ask you during the class, like if anybody has resources for obelisks or, you know, English garden things, not that that's, but anyways, just looking. But Wade Garrett, these were pretty small and I'd like to put something with some height for some peas and things like that.
Yeah. I think if you just type into Google, you'll come up with some, because right before class, I was finding some too, because you got me thinking about what I want to use a little differently. And I love these two pieces because they just lean together, don't they? They're pretty
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah, they sell it two in a pack.
Right. So your challenge was really to come up with some ways to give you some height and some whimsy and some way to use this space. So tell us about your process a little bit.
Well, it's sort of already baked, so working with that because I think the fence is kind of boring. So to either use some hardware or something that invites you into the garden. So I'm thinking the space is small to put a bird bath in there possibly.
Yep.
And then somewhere to use an obelisk to bring some height in. The beds are only 6 by 6, so that's why I thought maybe those lean-tos would give me something to grow up and then either something behind the garden or flowers behind it. I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
at loss still.
Oh, you are? Well, I noticed you didn't actually do a drawing yet, have you? I don't
No, I
know.
didn't send one because I thought I was sort of stuck with what I've got. So I
Yeah.
was planning to do that for this coming week with my seeds.
I think that's a great idea. I think that will really inspire you. Sometimes
Okay.
corners are hard, and sometimes corners are the best place to put in something with a little height right there and give it some
Okay.
balance. And I love the idea of doing a bird bath or something in this middle space here. Um, and maybe even something around the tops of these gardens might be, like a sundial, or I mentioned like some kind of a cutout of a crow or something like that, just to add some whimsy around the edges if you wanted to. I mean, I don't think you want to block that view in any way, but you can clutter it up if you want to, or keep it as simple and streamlined as you want. But
Yeah, thank you. Thank
so
you.
much potential there. It's exciting. I love the idea of adding this red or something in there too to really sort of, contrast against that gray. I think that's
No,
fun.
I know the red has just really made me start to think that would be really a fun punch out, in there or outside the garden to draw your eye. And
Yeah,
this one was beautiful and it's from a garden that they make them, I think. So I've got to research that.
right, right. Well, good. I think it's great. I think you're on track, and I look forward to your next
Thank
design
you.
plan.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Ellen. Thank you.
All right. Who do we have here? Catherine, are you with us? Yes. You sent me a lot of photos. You sent me, I mean,
Yeah, I did
yay.
send a lot of photos, so I'm sorry it looks so ugly in the in this weather. I mean, and just to remind, just to say that, I've lived in my house for like almost 26 years, and I have, some structures in there, and I'm looking to create in the most south spot a much more beautiful vegetable kitchen garden. So this view is looking from the place where it would be behind uh behind me, if you will, and the trellis has like roses on it, obviously during June and a little bit of July, and it goes on all season, but they're blooming mostly then. And so behind me, behind the view, there's this the space that you see that I sketched out, and it's lined by we have a big fence, and then the people before us lined it with hostas, and it was like a play area. And one of the first things I did, not knowing much about gardening, okay, that's another view. So
Yeah.
just kind of go back
I
to
just
the
want to
first
show
one.
you what I put in.
Oh,
I put in 3.
oh, okay, okay, good. So I just want to say with the hostas, I tore some out and put a privet hedge in, um, not really knowing that the hostas were nice, but the hostas also attract so many deer, but it's so, hostas are so hard to even get out. So I feel like I'm kind of stuck with them on 3. And it's not that I don't like them, it's just that the deer, even when I spray them, the deer attack them and it ends up looking not so nice. But anyway, so what I
Yeah.
want to do in the space behind me is create, um, I'm thinking about the raised, like the tongue and groove
Mhm.
raised beds, only because I want to control, I like to have a little more control over the soil because our soil is really heavy clay. And also the deer is really, really difficult, as well as groundhogs and squirrels and rabbits. But I like the idea of that fish line that you just showed. I think that's
Mm.
great idea. So I'm thinking of that traditional design that we had the stencil for, with maybe a tomato trellis in the middle. The area is already lined with like a pea gravel. So I feel like I'm not being really that creative, but I think it'll come. I just kind of want to change it
Yeah.
around a bit.
Well,
This
you did
looks,
exactly what the assignment was. You were just trying different ways. Some people like
yeah,
nailed it right off the top. They just said, I know this is what I'm going to do, and that's that. And so, and then there's some of us who are still playing with the design and so on. So you did exactly what you needed to do to figure it out. So I love your greenhouse. How did you get that?
yeah. So well, it's great. We put it together. Okay, this is just go back one slide. That's, oh no, you just showed it, I guess, ahead. This is the area that I'm talking about. Now
Yeah.
you can see, and it's like divided. I didn't finish like with all the nicer gravel. I did that in the fall and didn't quite finish it. But the area that's not done gets more shade. The other area is like full sun.
Mhm.
And you see the compost there, and I had one raised bed, and I have some mixed perennials, but I probably would get rid of that just to have the kitchen garden. And
Right.
that's the privet hedge to the right. Then the other picture, just real quick, and then I'll stop. This is looking the other way. The former owners had the vegetable garden down there where we put together that little greenhouse, but obviously it's not heated, and I really haven't used it effectively. I want to, with seeds and then extending the season, but so far I've just been storing stuff there, and I don't feel good about that. So that's a goal. And then those 2 raised beds I have there, I've used pretty successfully, but the other area gets much more full sun. So this area we've been using more as seating and everything, but I still want to make that area more cozy and
Yeah.
more, a little more shade and stuff. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Well, I think the lesson here that I'd really like everybody to take away, and including you, Catherine, when you're looking at this, is that you're right. This time of year, it doesn't look like anything. It's not
yeah,
particularly pretty. It's kind of hard to visualize it. So what you
yeah.
are doing and what we're all doing with our gardens is we're creating that structure. So by having the fence around it that defines that space, whether it's done with plants or whether it's done with wood or however you want to do it, but defining these areas so that there's visually, it looks nice any time of year. And I think that's the ultimate goal of a good garden design, that the bones are there regardless if it's planted. I know when I go to visit gardens and it's off season, I can still see what it could look like, what the potential is, what even when it's off season. And that's really how you want to visualize it. So continuing to work on it on the ground, but also by visualizing how you want that structure to be. So I agree with you. I think having this as your kitchen garden, and then just not trying to spread it out too thin, just trying to
Mhm,
integrate, using those 2 raised beds look very nice, and maybe just moving them into the space and using those in some way would be great.
mhm. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Good start. You're off to a good start. Which one of these do you prefer? Do you have a favorite?
Um, I of my designs, I don't know. I think I think this this would be if it was in the ground, the curve. So the
Mhm.
next one probably with the raised, doing it, yeah, probably this one, I think. It looks, I think it would might look a little bit less like look, you know, if it was, and I had like the center leading from the trellis and had something nice in the center.
Mm.
What do you think? What does anybody else think?
Um, yeah, I mean, I almost like this one, I think, because
Okay,
it doesn't feel like chaos. It looks like there's more organized, and I think you can integrate what you have there. So you'd really just use two of what you have and then
right,
two other beds, and it would be nice. Like, let's say these are the two raised beds or whatever. I think it gives it more, um, and I don't know if you need two benches. I think that might be overkill in that space. Just find that sweet
okay,
spot that you want to set, but you don't really need to have a bench just because you have a bench. It's a small space. It really is.
right.
And I know bird baths are nice. I'm not sure how birds, if if they'll go to something that's right in the center. They sometimes like it on the
Mhm.
edge. So,
Mm.
maybe figuring out something a little more ornamental there. So I guess I like this one and I would straighten it out more, but I like orderliness because that's just the way I do things.
Okay, thank you. That's really helpful.
Yeah, I hope it's helpful. Yeah.
It is absolutely very helpful. Thank
Oh,
you.
good. Oh, good. All right, Diane, are you with us?
Okay. Yes, I am.
Yay, good, 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 good. And there's so much going on here. I think I have do I have two of
I
yours?
I
Yeah,
did two different ones. That's my
good.
crazy one. That's my dream one.
I love it. I love it. I wasn't sure which one to put in first. Let's start
Well,
with the
I think
dream
I
one.
put up there, this is my wild, this is the wild design,
Yeah,
artistic and wild design. And the other one is the practical design, the first one.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
But
but
I love it because it really does. It feels like it came to you in a dream. This is how you want it.
yeah,
I'm fascinated by the fact that you have bluestone and brick. That seems very ambitious, but it would make a nice contrast. Do you have anything there at all now?
not in the spot where I would like to put it. My garden, my existing garden now, I would like to move it to this new space.
Okay.
I think I had sent you some pictures. We have woods, and we've been here. This garden is 20, my garden is 25 years old, and the woods are starting to, the trees are getting a little bit bigger on the edge now, and we have a huge oak tree that is starting to grow over my garden on the one side, and it drops all the acorns. It just makes my garden really messy. I get ticks back there. And I don't want to cut down any trees. I
Mm,
really don't, because I love my woods.
mm.
So I want to move my garden, but the garden that I have now, I do have brick and bluestone in it.
Oh, nice,
I've got both in there.
nice,
So that's why you see bluestone in these, because I will reuse my bluestone and my brick.
great. Well,
Um,
I love the different things here. You have the table and chairs, which is wonderful. I love the way you have wattle fencing around just these little green areas. And oh, and the veggies. Oh, I guess you have wattle
I,
fencing around all
yes,
those.
I wanted little raised beds, on those with the wattle fencing. I thought that would be neat.
Yeah,
Um, yeah.
I, I like it. And the cupola with the weather vane, is that are
Uh-huh.
you were the one who said this is your it's a family heirloom of some kind?
No, well, it's an antique cupola that I have with the,
Okay.
and I have it in the center of my existing garden now also.
But I
Um,
like that. I can't wait to see a picture of that. Maybe you
so
sent it earlier and I didn't see it, so you'll have to share that with us.
yeah, yeah, I think I did. I'm not sure. Maybe it's not in there. I'll look for one and get it to you.
Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to jump. I wanted to go
That's
back.
okay.
This is what you think you're going to do. Now, what is tobacco fencing?
Um, it's it's wood.
Okay.
It's wood. I have it around my garden now.
Mhm.
Um, It's they use it for the tobacco plants, like when they grow, like up in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, when they do um their tobacco plants and all, I guess they use them up there all the time. So, and they call it tobacco fencing.
Uh-huh.
Not
Okay.
always easy to get. For quite a few years, I hadn't been able to get it, and then I was able to get it again last year. Oh, somebody's got a piece in it.
Because
You're-
Nicole, I checked the chat and Nicole dropped in tobacco fencing.
I
yeah,
guess I just was looking, I was curious too, so I just.
yeah.
I love that. I
It's
didn't know
kind
I
of
could
primitive.
it would show. That's so fun.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, you know, the pieces of wood aren't perfectly even. They kind of go up in a point a little bit at the top.
Yeah.
It's just I like primitive
It
look,
looks
and
really
it's
good. I like
yeah,
it.
yeah. So that's, you know, I have some now in my garden, so that's what I figured I'll use it again.
Good. I like it. I like that idea.
Thank
You
you.
introduce. See, I'm learning from all of you. This is helpful. Well, this is cool. I love the way you've put everything. I like the bird house and the bird bath and everything. So, good. Anybody want to make a comment or say anything positive?
Any suggestions?
Just
Um,
looks like a lot of work and really so organized and I like it a lot.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And I'd want to hang out in.
yeah.
Oh, good. Anytime. You're welcome to come.
I like this centerpiece with the cupola and the weather vane. I think that's going to be really pretty. I love the way you've surrounded that with herbs because herbs really need a bed of their own. There's no question about it. They need that space to just go, "Grr," you know.
Yeah. And that cupola will sit up on a brick foundation. Like I'll have about 2 layers of brick, and then I set the cupola on that. That's how I have it now in my other garden.
Good.
So, so that it's not sitting right down on the dirt, to try and protect it so it doesn't rot out.
That's nice.
So yeah. So.
You're inspiring me. I need to get a better focal point for my garden, I think. Oh,
Well, your garden looks beautiful from the pictures I saw.
well, very selective photos. I only show you the best. All right. So I'm going to keep going, but great job, Diane. Good work.
Thank you.
And I look forward to seeing how you fill in everything.
Sure.
Gwen, you are amazing with your creativity. Wait till you see this. I'm just going to jump forward and then we're going to go back. But look at what Gwen created. Isn't that pretty? Oh my gosh. So you started with your sensory. I want you to do the talking about all this because I love the way you drew it and the shape of it, and then how you've added all the little elements. And so talk to us, Gwen. Tell us how you do this.
So much fun doing this. And I've never done something like this before. So this class is like, I'm really grateful for this class. It's
good.
supporting my visioning process for sure.
Great.
Can I read my short description of each garden? Because I feel like it's hard to get the personality of the garden.
Yes, and I'll flip it when you get to the next one. Yes.
Okay. So I called this a sensory garden. And this garden it's playful, it's rustic artsy, and it hopes to engage your senses at every turn, from aromatic path borders to beds buzzing with pollinator activity, and then plenty of opportunity for hands-on work in a generous sized kitchen garden, which is represented by the orange, the lower piece being the herbs, and then the main garden at the center. And then that north corner, it's kind of hard to see, but there's a larger circle representing a tree. And I'm not sure if they make dwarf willows, but I love willow trees, and that like just the soothing sound and sight of the willow branches stirring, and then with the little ornamental fountain bubbling in the background, like it's a great place to just retreat. And that, like, all of my designs, one consistent thing is my hammock nook corner right there. I can't move it. It has to be there. Yeah, and then the whole journey is kind of navigating with this satisfying crunch of gravel under your feet, and plenty of, I love the sense of the whole and the sense of detail, and you have opportunity for that at every turn. So it just draws in your eyes, it sparks imagination. Yeah, it's just playful and fun. This is probably this is my favorite. I think it most fits my personality. The next one I'm not sure, maybe classic is a better word than formal. This garden features a clear subdivision of the yard into 3 sections. And my favorite piece about this is that first division using a shrub hedge with tall evergreens in the background, and then in the foreground it's a combination of like nandina, yellow twig, dogwood, things that will be just beautiful as a winter view from the kitchen, which is my view out of the house. This design has a ton of benches, and by a ton there's 3. My yard's not big, and lots of rose bushes. Those are things that I guess in my mind I just associate with more of like a classic garden. And the features that I've chose to include in the ornamental pieces kind of fit that feel a little bit more specifically too. So that's my formal garden. And then the terrace design, I love the terrace. I don't think it's my favorite design though. It features like a more clean geometric structures throughout the yard that are then softened by trailing plants and just the plants themselves. And the length of the terrace, I mean, for my yard, it would be long. It's like 30 feet. It's largely opened, but it has a nice sheltered backdrop, which was a helpful takeaway from the last class. I think consider like an evergreen hedge, or I think I have combination, if not in this design and others, of like trellis or others like metal structures to serve as a screen. But I just imagine this terrace and I feel it creating a sense of spaciousness for the yard. And it just evokes this whole sense of like a long Mediterranean evening of like hanging out with a glass of wine and your friends on the deck. And like, yeah, so for a little yard that actually feels very spacious, that design. And it was neat because I didn't have all 3 designs in mind from the beginning, just began with one, created it, and I was like, all right, and then moved on to the next one. But the personalities of them revealed themselves by the end of the design. I didn't start out with a personality. It was more of like, I wanted to just make sure I was doing something different than I had done before, and it kind of just took shape from there. So it's not much of a process, but yeah.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Now, remind me, are you the one who lives in DC, the DC area, and you've got a neighbor who's a swimming pool next to you? Or is that not?
Swimming pool, yes, but it's Northeast Philly.
Northeast Philly. Okay,
Yeah.
you have come so far. I'm just blown away because I remember that and looking at it going, okay, let's break this into smaller sections. And I love the concept of the rooms. Like you've really thought of 3 rooms, which is so cool because each one of those has an interesting personality within it. And the path, the way you've created these paths, that is such a great element. And look at the way you're going to do it with that moon. What do you call that? A moon trellis or something. And have you sourced all these or you've just kind of pulled them out? I mean, I want this hammock.
Yeah.
These look really fun. I mean, the fire pit, I mean, the fountain. Oh my God. I mean,
those are features that I would have to acquire, most of them. So no, I don't. My backyard is very Spartan aside from my flower bed.
Yeah, but you can do this. So you can do like your 5-year plan can be, okay, one of these rooms, the other room and the other. So I think you've really, I want to go back. I think I like this one.
That's my favorite.
And I don't know, I think it's because I like this little area in here too, that's close to the house. So I can picture you having your herbs and things in there. And this is so lovely, the spaciousness of it. So I applaud you. You've really done a great job. And that's your shed right there too, right?
Yep, that's my shed.
Okay. Well, we're going to have to do some comparisons so everybody can remember what you did in your first drawing and then how this came together. It's like, wow, you were just so inspired. It's great. Good work. Anybody else want to say anything? No.
Yeah, I'll just say that I'm getting so many ideas from all of you guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's
I,
good.
I just wanted to say that I love the idea of creating a sensory garden. I never would have thought of that, but it is such a like a feast for the senses as you walk through that, and I can just imagine laying in that hammock under the willow tree, and it's just beautiful. I love it. It's very inspiring.
And look at this wonderful trellis, like just even, and so isn't it amazing how you can see something like that and go, okay, this is inspiring me to do this. So it's such a visual, it's so good to be just looking. You've immersed yourself in the process, and I love the way the hammock is in the back. So you don't have it up here. You have to walk all the way out there to get to your little sweet spot.
I like how she has the cafe lights. I think it's neat to light the gardens at night so you can enjoy.
Uh-huh.
If you're
Yeah.
hanging out in your yard at night, you can see the garden windows. I'm assuming those are cafe lights on the bottom left.
Yeah.
Yeah. And are those going to be along here or something? Somewhere.
They're around the small patio at the bottom, but now that we're talking, it would make sense to have, well, it would be awesome to have them in many other places. Right now, I just have them strung along the edge of my yard.
Yeah.
And my neighbors have them on their side of the fence. So when we're both outside, our yards look lovely.
Hope you guys get along okay.
Yeah, we're friends.
They're gonna say, "Can you design our garden too?"
Yep.
They're gonna be very envious. Well, good job, Gwen. It's very inspiring. Excellent. Very nice.
They're gonna want to hate to your backyard.
Yeah.
Come on over.
Yeah, it's good. Well, maybe you could get us all to come help you work because that's going to be a lot to do. So
Yeah.
bring-
Oh, what was about that? It was so fun. My brother, I live with my brother, and he knows that I'm in his class. And before I can even offer, he's like, "Can I see your designs?" Because he knew I was working on them this week. And he looks at them, and he's like more excited than I am. He's like, "Can we really make one of these happen?" So
nice. What a
Mhm.
wonderful project for you to do. Okay, well, you'll have to keep us posted. You know, I will say here, here and now that in last year's class, we had a reunion in October. And so I could check on your progress to make sure you did what you said you were going to do. So we'll have to do that again. So to be continued. That's up to that. Tim organized it, so let him take care of that. But I thought that was really fun. All right, Kim, are you here tonight?
I am here.
Great. So I wasn't sure where to start with yours, but I
This is
wanted to
fine.
show you that I put 3 of them in. Where do you want to start?
We can start with the first one. So,
Okay.
so it's a part of a bigger backyard, but this particular area was the vegetable part of it. So it's kind of on the left-hand side of it, there are going to be tall flowers anyway, tall flowers / ornamental grasses, that kind of thing. So something that has structure in the winter as well, but that kind of creates a sense of enclosure. And then on the right-hand side, my thing I won't get rid of is the espalier apples because I've always wanted to have those. I don't have a fence, so I can't. And this was my mom's garden. So the whimsy thing for me, and this was my whimsy one, was the circles. But the reality was when I kind of laid them out like this, I know doing circles would be difficult anyway. When I spent a little bit more time trying to source the circle material, I was like, oh, wow, this is not going to be the easiest thing to do. And nor will it be necessarily it might be cost prohibitive to do something that was actually really nice, you know? But it also made too much space. And I was thinking, because I don't have it in this picture, but kind of off up into the right-hand corner is where the compost bin will be. So I wanted to stay conscious of the fact that a wheelbarrow has to make its way through there, but without making, this felt like a lot of wasted space. It didn't feel like there was enough space. I did take the raspberry / blackberries, and I thought I don't need a fence per se, but it would still be nice to kind of put those along one of the edges and make it feel a little bit like a fence, so they'd be a little bit taller. But that was my first one. And then if you go to the other page, then I'll go to the one that's on the right-hand side. The one on the right-hand side to me was the one that was more structured, right? And I just really just took the kind of the idea of the circles and said, okay, it's not circles anymore. Now it's going to be something that's much easier to build, which is just straight wood. And I put it on an angle like a triangle. but bench in the same spot. I did add an arbor because I thought, wait, an arbor kind of coming in would be nice, and you could have, you know, peas on one side and I don't know, something else like cucumbers or something on the other side, but get a little bit of height as you're walking in. And then I did the one that's on the left-hand side as kind of my blend between the two. So I kept one of the circles because I really did want a circle, but then I thought, you know what, I can enhance the earth and I can put a curved path, but put it into the ground. And then the colors are just representing, you know, there's obviously some vegetables that can be purple. So some of that is purple, some of it may be like chives, something like that. And then the yellow would be like marigold, something like that, just to put a little bit of color. But it's not meant to be a flower garden, but it certainly needs some level of color. And then the rest of them are just sort of patches in there. I did still put the raspberries in along the edge so that it's different edge, but I put some raspberries there. And then I thought there next to the bench, you can barely even see it, but there's a green circle, and that I thought could be something that's a climbing, you know, climbs and is in a circular shape. So not something ugly like a tomato, but maybe something a little bit prettier than that, like on an obelisk or something. But kind of to create a little bit of sense of enclosure there. And then while you guys were going through it, I was thinking I could probably stick a bird bath or something somewhere in there too, which I think would be kind of nice to have.
Yeah. So do you have a favorite?
The one on the left-hand side.
I agree. I love it. I think it's very organic because you've come from something that's feels like it's pretty on paper, but it might not really, you know, show itself off. But to the one on the left is really nice.
Yeah,
Really,
and then I did have like I have on that arbor piece of it. So this the rest of the garden would be, I like cottage style, so something that's a lot less formal. And I have a nice woods which was overgrown with giant grapevines when I moved in. So for the longest time I've been saving this beautiful arch-shaped piece of grapevine that we cut down. And so that I was thinking like that would be a nice kind of, you know, and I put a picture in the thing, but a nice really rustic looking arbor, you know, to just have two trees, because I have a lot of trees that fall over too. So probably 2 trees that I could take and then put that thing across the top. So it just gives it a little bit of an entranceway as well.
yeah, no, I like it. And even something like this. So in the center of my garden, I have I mean, one time I had a dwarf apple tree, and then I surrounded it with alpine strawberries and herbs and things like that. And that created a natural circle in that space. But you might not want to give up that much growing space for a tree. But there's a lot you can do in that. It's lovely. It's lovely. Anybody else want to offer praise or suggestions? Got a shy group here, I guess. Anyways, I love it. Keep going. I'd love to see how you're going to fill that in. And I think that having the bench over here in the corner is really nice and facing in that direction.
I really like the one on the left too.
Yeah.
Just very soothing. It's pretty.
I like the way you drew it too. It's very unusual. You definitely have a style that's very unique. It's nice. Is it watercolor or how did you do it? What did you do? What did you use?
No, I have a drawing app on my iPad, so I just use that, and then like I can do the layers and stuff. So it just makes it easier for me, you know.
Good for you. Good for you. I haven't gotten to that point where maybe the next time I teach this class, I'll have figured out the drawing app. Good work. Okay, so we're going to jump into class 3 seeds, but wasn't that fun? Don't you just feel like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting to see everybody's work. We're going to talk about seeds, and we're going to start with a little quiz. How many of you have actually taken time to look at seeds? I bet most of you could probably identify these, but I'm going to see who wants to suggest what number 1 would be. Any thoughts? I'll give you a hint. It's a flower. All right, we'll go to number 2. Number 2, does anybody have any idea what that might be?
Is it a squash or a pumpkin?
It's in that family. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was number 1 a hollyhock? I'm having a hard time seeing and I can't make the picture bigger.
Oh,
my eyes are not that great, Ellen.
I'll give you I'll tell you what they are in the next slide.
Okay.
But I want you to look at them. The third one, does anybody have any idea what that might be?
Radishes.
You're right. You're right. Good for you. That's one of the hardest ones. Good for you. I guess I put these in. Here's the answers. Calendula, swan's neck gourd, and radishes. Because so often, and I'm included in this, is that you get a seed packet and you can't wait to get it into the ground and you rip it open and you just get the seeds in the ground. But very not very often do we actually sit and look at those seeds and where did these seeds come from? Who grew these seeds? How did these seeds grow? And why are they shaped like this? And, these are all just basic questions, but I think in our modern world, we don't take enough time to really look at seeds. So I really hope that in this class, you start to build a true appreciation for the magic of seeds. When my kids were in the 3rd grade, I would take in all kinds I had a seed catalog, so it was really easy. And I'd bring in seeds for the 3rd grade class and I'd put them up in little dishes and I'd have each child hold them and talk to me about what they felt and what they saw and really look at seeds. And as adults, I think it's really important that we do the same thing because seeds are what feeds us. These are things that nourish us, that are going to fill our garden. So let's use this time to really immerse ourselves in why seeds are important and why it's fun to be a seed saver. These were seeds that were given to me by a friend. The green ones on the top left are soybeans. Next to them are beet seeds, spinach seeds going across, bean seeds, pea seeds. I don't know what those green ones are exactly. I'd say they're peas, but peas have that funny wrinkly look and then more beans. But what I thought was so amusing and might not be something that you pick up on, but some of these have real names. Fiskeby was named after probably somebody named Fiskeby, and that's why they ended up being Fiskeby edamame. Well, they probably are a specific kind of edamame, but this is what happens with seed savers is we often name seeds based on who gave them to us, like the wealthy French beans. I said, Tom, why are these named wealthy French beans? Well, because my friend Wealthy gave them to me. Okay, that's not really what they are. They're probably a fin de bagnole or some other kind of traditional French bean, but sometimes these names get lost in translation. So it's a good idea if you are growing heirlooms to really try and get to know what the original heirloom name is so you can keep that with the seeds. But really just looking at the different shapes, like these beet seeds, there's actually 5 different seeds in each one of those seeds. And so just getting to know seeds, it just feels to me like such incredible magic. Here we go with that bird's the swan what I'm talking about, the gourd, with swan's neck gourd. So when I started writing my book on the new heirloom garden, I realized I knew absolutely nothing about seeds. I just knew that I loved seeds. I had a passion for seeds. I wanted other people to start paying attention to seeds. So I started reading books like this book called The Triumph of Seeds, How Grains, Nuts, Kernels, Pulses, and Pips Conquered the Plant Kingdom and Shaped Human History by Thor Hansen. Well, I have to admit, I got about halfway through and I thought, okay, I've had enough knowledge that I can't completely understand, but there's so many wonderful books about seeds. And I really encourage you to pick up a few and really start to understand how seeds have become, they really are, without seeds, we don't have gardens and how important they truly are. So what, I guess we got to start at the basics. What are open pollinated seeds? How do you become a seed saver? Well, open pollinated seeds are easily grown and saved by home gardeners because the plants resemble parent plants, where hybrid seeds will produce sterile seeds not worth saving. And most people know this and understand it, but often seed catalogs are selling us a combination of the two. They don't tell you if you have hybrid seeds or open pollinated seeds because naturally they want to continue to sell you more seeds. So they'll sell you the hybrid version of it. Now, There's people who feel hybrids are much better than open pollinated because they're disease resistant. They're more vigorous. They give you bigger blossoms and stronger stems and et cetera, et cetera. Whereas I really like to be able to have the option to save my seeds if I want to. So I often prefer to have open pollinated seeds. And open pollinated also means that the flowers are fertilized by bees and moths and birds and bats and even the wind or the rain. And it's not that hybrid seeds don't create pollen, but they aren't necessarily dependent on pollinators to keep them pollinated. The seed that forms produces the same plant the following year. So they're a more traditional way of growing crops that we had before 1950 when hybrid seeds were introduced. So the true definition of heirloom means something that has been transferred passed along from generation to generation. Heir means inheritance, loom means tool, and heirlooms is really essentially means a way to pass along something of value without written document or legal settlement. So that can be a piece of furniture, a piece of jewelry, something that's important to a family becomes an heirloom. And when you're talking about heirloom seeds, it's traditionally something that has a named variety that is open pollinated and was bred before 1950 when hybrids were introduced. Now, I'm going to talk more about heirlooms than I am about hybrids because I happen to really enjoy heirloom seeds. I feel that heirlooms have a natural tolerance for regional conditions. And, going back to that class that Longwood is offering with True Love Seeds, I imagine many of the seeds that they offer are ones that were probably regionally important in the Pennsylvania Brandywine Valley area. And heirloom seeds can be saved year after year. So when you're growing beans and you're growing peas and you're growing the flowers, you can save 1 or 2 plants and allow them to go to seed, and then you can pack them in packets and you'll have something for next year, and you'll save yourself a little bit of money, and you can even give them away. But heirlooms are also a way to preserve the biodiversity of our food system. There's over 500, or I have lost track of the number, 5,000. We lose hundreds of different types of seeds every year because people have decided that they're not worth saving, or we no longer have the seeds for them. And I'm sorry, I've lost track of the statistics. I used to know it right off the tip of my tongue when I wrote my book 4 years ago. But right now, I just know that it's a really integral part to why saving seeds is so important. Think of Seed Savers Exchange and other organizations that are really focused on saving native plant seeds. I feel that the best tasting vegetables are heirloom and the most interesting plants are heirloom. But really the question is, why do heirlooms matter? Well, when I was writing my book, I interviewed different seed savers and gardeners around the country, and Roz Creasy, I'm not sure if you know Rosalind Creasy, but you might look her up. She was a real pioneer in the edible gardening movement. She was the first one who I know who ripped up her front yard. She had a beautiful house in Palo Alto, California, ripped up her front yard and planted vegetables, and then she's a photographer, so she took beautiful pictures of those vegetables and was the first one to say, hey, vegetables are beautiful, put them in your front yard. And of course, we all know that and we all do that now, but she was really one of the first that said it's okay to put vegetables in your front yard. You don't have to keep them hidden in the backyard. But most of all, it's about flavor. When you can taste different varieties of beans and realize that the heirloom beans have much better flavor than the ones that are grown for high productivity, you realize that there's a reason that heirlooms have continued to persist in our culture. And as she says, if I don't like the taste, I'm not going to eat it. There's a wide variety difference between varieties. And when we had our seed catalog, we would have these tasting events where we would grow 50 different kinds of carrots and we'd have our customers come and taste them, or 50 different kinds of tomatoes. We were one of the first seed catalogs to offer heirloom tomatoes, and people could really taste the difference. So if you can grow different types side by side, you realize that there is a big difference between varieties. Marilyn Barlow, who has a seed catalog called Select Seeds, she told me that fragrance was the most important aspect for growing heirloom flowers. And in her catalog, she offers a lot of old heirloom flowers. She's one of my favorite sources for different kinds of fragrant flowers. And she says right in the catalog the year that the seeds were first developed and which ones are fragrant and why they're so important. And so she told me that heirloom peonies around my house have no name, yet they have a fragrance that makes me weak in the knees. And when she told me this, I realized that I have beautiful peonies in my garden, but honestly, they don't have any fragrance at all. So I'm clearly not growing the old-fashioned varieties, and it makes me want to rip them up and get some of those fragrant peonies that Marilyn has. Preserving history is another reason for growing heirloom seeds. Here today, gone tomorrow. Unless we preserve something, it will disappear. And this is a quote by William Royce Reaver, who has written a couple books on heirloom gardening and heirloom vegetables. And he came into this because he discovered when he was cleaning out his grandfather's house, he looked in the freezer, and in the very bottom there were bags of seeds, and they were all marked. And he'd never heard of these varieties, and he realized that his grandfather, who was a doctor, had one of his patients had traded him seeds for his treatment. And so he pulled these out and started growing them, and realized some of these hadn't been heard of for 100 or 200 years, and yet he was the only source for these seeds. So he started growing them and started his own seed company called the Roughwood Seed Collection, which is now, I think you can get them through Baker Seed Catalog. But the main reason I grow them is because seeds are free. I mean, why should I go out and pay $5 a packet for peas when if I just saved one or two vines and just let them grow into seeds, I wouldn't ever have to buy pea seeds again. And sometimes I kick myself because peas taste so good that I'm not thinking about the future. I'm just thinking about the moment and wanting to eat as many peas as I possibly can while they're fresh, because they're usually the first thing to produce in the spring and the summer. But just saving a few of those peas and bean seeds, you can really save yourself some money. And just look at those beautiful seeds. This is Fruition Seed Company, which unfortunately went out of business last year. But they're very much into the sharing community of educating people on growing varieties that are open pollinated and then sharing them. And just wanted to show you this example of all of these bean seeds came out of that one packet, the Chocolate Runner. And I've kept jars and jars of them, and I give them away to friends because I think they're so beautiful. And look at those wonderful bean seeds, the pole bean, the hyacinth bean. Some of you have perhaps grown those, and those of you who have these arbors and obelisks that you're going to be putting in your garden, I highly recommend that you grow the hyacinth bean. They grow rapidly, they grow beautifully, especially in the southern climates. They love the heat, and they have a purple bean, a very ornamental purple bean, and beautiful flowers that are dark green with a purple backside. And they're not particularly edible, but look at these seeds. Aren't they gorgeous? I've just never seen anything like that. They're just, I don't know why they're shaped with that little bit of white edging on there, but they're so, so pretty. And seeds are really fun to share. So when you start saving seeds, you can give them away to friends. And this was something that somebody sent me a long time ago, the Chocolate Rose Silk Morning Glory. I've never seen this listed in a catalog. I love the shape of those seeds. I love the way that she wrote on them, nick or file, soak in water and for 24 hours. And unfortunately, I think that I no longer have kept these seeds, and it makes me sad every time I look at this because she never wrote her name on there. So I don't know even who gave them to me so I can get more. So if you do become a seed saver and start giving your seeds away, be sure to put in as much information as you can so your friends can come back and say, you know, those Chocolate Rose Silk Morning Glories, could you send me some more, please? But seed saving, it was once upon a time essential for life. And our ancestors would grow a lot of dried beans, which is something that very few of us grow anymore because dried beans take up so much space in the garden. You need quite a lot of space to produce enough to get you through the winter. But what our ancestors used to do is they would not only grow enough to get them through the winter, but enough to save seeds because they did not have the convenience of seed catalogs that we have today. And furthermore, look at those beautiful seeds. I mean, I just I can't stop saying, look at those beautiful seeds. Each one of them has a completely different pattern on them. So seed saving is easy once you get started, and I really recommend you start with the legume family and getting to know the vegetables that you are growing based on plant family rather than variety. I think so often we say, okay, we're going to plant carrots and beans and lettuce in this area. And remember in that first class when I talked about crop rotation and they were based on plant families? So the legume family are the bean seeds and they're setting the nitrogen into the roots in the soil. And they're the ones that are easiest to save the seed because it's pretty obvious what the seed pod looks like and when it's ready because it's usually dry. Lettuce takes a little bit more time. Some of the other crops, the tomatoes, it's a whole different thing. And if you get serious about seed saving, I really recommend that you get a book on seed saving. There's a number of them. There's one that's produced by the Seed Savers Exchange. And maybe I'm going to make a note to post some of those books that I have because every seed is a little different in terms of what's required in terms of saving it. But I wanted to show you these two photographs because this is from my book, The New Heirloom Garden, because I absolutely love this photograph. And this shows all the different varieties and all the different stages. We have the edamame beans here and the dried beans, and then the beans that haven't dried enough to produce seeds. But most of all, the fun of actually just taking that picture, I wanted to show you my photographer, Matthew Benson, who set up that picture to take that lovely, just gorgeous photo of all the legumes. And here's a little pop quiz for you. Another question. Does anybody know what kind of seed is starting to form on this plant or what kind of plant it might be? If you want to speak up, you can, or put it in the chat. I'll give you a hint. Oh, somebody was saying something.
Is it basil?
Nope, it's not basil.
Brussels sprouts?
No, it's not. I was about to say every one of you probably grows this in your garden, and I would imagine you all grow basil, so that might not be an adequate clue. But every one of you grows this. I know for a fact. Okay, I'll give you another hint.
Broccoli or cauliflower?
No, can you recognize this is what it looks like
Clover.
growing. Can you tell what this is?
Clover.
It's lettuce.
Lettuce.
Oh,
So think of what we do with lettuce. It forms a beautiful little head that we use in our salads, and then we say, oh my gosh, it's going to seed. You rip it out of the garden and you throw it on the compost. But if you let that go to seed, that is going to form little yellow flowers, and then it's going to turn like a dandelion, just puffy little white things. And inside those little white things is going to be seed. And each lettuce plant will produce up to 1,000 seeds. So all you have to do is just let a few of them grow. This is at, oh gosh, I can't remember the name. You know where this is. It's down there where you live in, it's, I'll remember where it is. But I love the way they have produced this wonderful wave of plants that's all lettuce. And think how many people walk through there and go, gosh, I don't recognize this. What is this? And it's just lettuce going to seed. It's so beautiful, isn't it?
Is that a Chanticleer?
Chanticleer, thank you.
Okay, I thought so.
Yes, right.
Nice.
Every year they tried something fun and different that makes people question, like, what is going on there? So anyways, maybe Longwood Garden will grow a whole bed of lettuce. How about that, Tim? So lettuce, just let it go, just let a few go to seed and you'll have plenty of seed. These are little seed packets. I have a friend who works in schools and she had kids decorate seed packets, and some of them wrote little quotes. I love this. A seed looks small, but what it will become is bigger than you know. And I'm just fascinated by how seeds grow. And these are just sunflower seeds growing, and obviously a very healthy looking plant. But seeds are just little miracles waiting to happen. It's extraordinary that a tiny seed like a sunflower seed can grow a 10-foot tall plant. All right, I'm done talking about seeds for a minute. We're going to go back to designs. Kirsten, are you with us?
I am. Yeah.
Yay. Yay.
Yeah.
Now, I
So
think, did you give me a couple ones, or was it just one?
no, I just did the one actual drawing, but then I kind of in my description just described like how I might make it more like fantastic.
Mhm.
So my garden, I think, is just more on the practical side. That's what I'm kind of drawn to. And so I was trying to think of like what I'm putting in the garden as well as what I'm putting around it, because it will be in the middle of like a bigger field. So I have space around it too. So around it, I researched different herbs and flowers that are hopefully a little deer resistant, but also that I like too, like lavender and rosemary and yarrow. And so I'm trying to think of either culinary or flowers that can be dried for arranging or just aromatics. And so the gate to the left would be more like the main gate to come in, and then on your right would be some raised beds, and on the left would be more like the herb beds. And the one feature that I put in that I think I will really appreciate is a little garden sink, just to
Like,
like wash the veggies and wash your hands and fill up buckets. And I that's really important to me to have that in there. And then the fun feature would be the little archway in the middle that I'd like to grow loofahs that would hang down. And that would be a wider, I kind of call it like a utility gate. That's where you can get the wheelbarrow in and out, but it might be covered a little bit by the archway so it doesn't look so utilitarian. And then toward the right, there is an existing willow tree there. It's maybe like medium size right now, but I thought I would put the bench, kind of tuck it back that way under a little arbor too, and try to plant more of the aromatics on that end. So when you're sitting there, it smells really nice too.
yeah. Well, I love the idea of the sink. That's the first I've seen in anybody's design, the sink. I mean, gosh, why don't we all have sinks in our
Yeah,
garden?
I wanted to, I
Brilliant
wanted to comment
idea.
on that. That it just blows me away. That I wrote it down because the one challenge that I know I have, I finally figured out where I could put this new garden, and there's no water up there, so we would have to run a line. So if we ran a line, then I guess we could put in a sink.
You can just use a hose. I mean, I work
well,
on a
yeah, I
farm
mean a
now.
hose.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just a hose to like, and I like the idea of repurposing found objects too. So you can just find a cheap sink on Facebook and, you know, lower it into a piece of wood and hook up a hose to an old fixture, and then you have a sink. And I think if I was going to go more like fantasy and whimsical, I would kind of build that up more and have a little like roof over the top of it and really make that like a little nook. But in reality, that's probably not going to happen. So I just want access to water in there for like I said, buckets, and just washing your hands and rinsing out the herbs and stuff as you harvest. And then on all four corners, I would like to put some kind of pollinator plant, like butterfly bushes, or just something that's kind of easy to grow and makes all the pollinators happy. And then I think if I was going to do like more whimsical or higher budget, I should say, I would like for the archways and stuff, I would love to have just like natural stone moon gates, like a big walk-through moon gate with like stone walls around it. But I know that's just financially and time-wise not practical. So I thought a compromise would just be some kind of either willow arbors or even just wooden arbors that I could grow things up to get that height and the arching throughout without stone. But I could use stone as little stepping stones and still bring that into the garden, but not on such a, you know, large scale.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going back to the sink again, because the sink can also double as a bird bath area too.
Oh yeah.
You want your bird baths. And I love the way you've done this diagonal thing going on the corners, because that gives it such visual interest. You have the square going this way and the diagonal. I think that's an idea that I haven't seen before either. So you've really thought about it, which is cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. Of course, all the herbs around the outside are just wonderful, because herbs really do get messy when you try and put them inside a garden. It's better to keep them on the outside of the fence.
Yeah, and I tried to choose herbs and varieties that can just kind of take care of themselves a little bit, just kind of grow wild and be pretty as they are and not need a lot of manicuring or maintenance.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's great. And so if you actually were to do this these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you've made this a really nice wide area here. So you can really get a wheelbarrow through there, which is
Yeah.
good. Anybody else want to say anything?
I just wanted to ask about the outside being deer proof.
Yeah, well, I mean, I will have a fence too, and I like the fence
okay.
that they showed in the beginning with the split rail with the wire and then the
Yeah.
strings on top, because I want to keep it light and airy because it's going to be in the middle of a field. I don't want it to look like a batting cage, like plunked in the middle of a field. But I thought planting flowers that deer don't like, maybe that would deter them from trying to poke into the garden too much too. I don't know.
And I've heard that some people put in like high bush cranberries or things because it really does keep them from going in, because it's too much space that they don't quite understand. If it's an easy jump, they'll do that. But if it's something that's certain height, so you might Google,
Yeah.
shrubbery that deer don't like.
And I
put that-
tried to plant like to the top of the screen is east, so the sun's coming that way. So I tried to plant like the lower growing things there and then keep the higher growing things on the west side so that wouldn't shade everything too much.
And so how
They
does it fit
also, the deer don't like the aromatics. They don't really like anything that's really smelly, they don't really like, so that's good too.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't like the smell of human people. I don't want to share. I think I can share this with all of you, but when we used to have a farm, forgive me if this is too gross for all of you, but if you have stones on the outside of that thing and you have your husband pee on them, they don't like that smell. And we rarely had trouble with deer in our garden. But that's one of those secrets. I'm not going to tell like a crowd of 300 women, but I can tell you that you can create. That's why people hang soap or hair and all that, which I think is disgusting. But human smells, they may stay away a little bit more.
So it works better than the soap that I see people using.
Well, it works for us. That's all I can say. I mean, it was stone, so the stone, when it sort of permeates, but we live in the country. We live in Vermont, it's different than if you're in the city. So
I'm going to share this with my son who has 3 little boys. They live in the woods and the deer keep eating everything. So I will share that with him and I'll let you know how it works.
It's a good father-son thing to do. Right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. End of discussion. Sorry, this is being recorded. Maybe they can take that out, but it is what it is. Anyways, I think this is great. But my question for you, Kirsten, is I can't remember. Do you have land? Is this something you actually might put in? Or is this still this is your dream when you get
we have the land and we're building the house now. So I don't know if this is going to happen this year because we have a lot of house things to take care of this year. But I did pick out an area where it's going to go.
This is the house that's the small house, right?
Yeah, the black one. Yeah.
Good. Okay, good. That'd be really nice. So I'm just trying to visualize how it ties in with the house and where the site.
Yeah, it's the house would be kind of to the left of the screen and up a little bit of an embankment. There's nowhere to put it like right up against the house. So it'll be like, I don't know, a 20-step walk or something from the
No, I
house.
remember that now because it sort of sloped down.
Yeah, it's on a slope.
Driveway. That's good. Okay, good. I can visualize it. Great.
I had one thought.
Yes.
I'd also be curious, this just came to my mind, since your house is a little bit up from where the garden is, and it sounds like you'll be able to see the whole thing. I wonder what the view of how your design of these might be even rearranged in response to like the view from the house. And
Yeah.
then my other thought was here, it sounded like your utility gate is not necessarily your main entrance, but that
Right.
it's the entrance on the left.
Yeah, the entrance on
I-
the left would be facing the house, so I think most times you kind of just walk through there. Yeah.
So now that it seems like the design has almost been made from the direction that we're looking at it, like looking in from the utility gate. I
Mhm.
wonder if some of these elements could just be rearranged so that you have this experience of looking at it, but like shifted so you're looking at it from your left entrance or something.
Oh, okay, right.
What you're saying. So I think what you're saying is maybe take these raised beds and turn them this way, put them on either side, and then having these on the back side.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, play
I
with
think
it a little.
in that vein, like the arbor too would probably be something that would be very pretty to see from the house and see those gourds hanging across. So switching that potentially too.
Yeah.
You have quite a bit of room in the center here, so you could put something, a table or something in the center.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking with the gourds and stuff, on that direction, there's a creek and a bench down there, so you can
Nice.
kind of see from up that way too, and there would be an arch from the house side that you can see into, so.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and you have quite a bit of room here to play with because this is 5 feet for an auxiliary path.
No,
And-
that's like it's half, so like
Oh, okay.
3 squares is a foot, so like the whole garden is like 20 by 30, although that's not set in stone because I could
Yeah.
make it as big as I wanted to.
Oh, okay. So maybe it doesn't look as big. So, when
Yeah.
you the point where we're going to talk about putting sticks and twine and measuring it out, it looks great. So good start. Great. Good. Thanks for the feedback, everybody. Okay. Martha, you here today?
Yes.
Great. Well, this is just such a beautiful design. I'm just going to show the 2 parts that you sent because you did not only a beautiful design, but then you did the research of how you're going to put it all, what inspired you. So I do remember the deer passage thing, which I think is a brilliant idea. So I'm just going to point this out. The fence is not directly around the garden, but it's along the edge here to keep the deer going. She's not trying to say, just go away. She's saying, just go in a different place. So hope that works. So tell us a little bit more about this and what you learned this week.
I am a sort of formal gal, as you can tell, and I love to mix evergreens in with the garden design. And I told you last week there at the bottom, there's a highway. So it's very important. I have a hedge of southern magnolias there proposed to help screen the highway. And then I just love the look of hornbeams to create another sort of green backdrop. And then of course, with the boxwoods around the garden, creating that structure. And I love the word or the term you used last week, which was contained chaos. So you have the structure on the outside, and then the inside would be more of the contained chaos.
Yeah. Nice.
And then in the middle, I inherited a fountain from my grandmother-in-law.
Okay.
She was a big gardener, and so I'd love to put that somewhere more prominent in the garden than where it is right now in my yard. And then mix in some pollinators. I do want to keep the fence sort of on the perimeter where you really don't see it, but I love the idea of a gate. So on my mood board, you could sort of see what I was thinking for that main gate, not necessarily that design, but that sort of feel. So it's just kind of a standalone gate, but it creates an entrance for you.
I love this. Look at this gate here. Isn't that gorgeous? Wow. And I love, so you really have been inspired, like to have little boxwood. And I noticed in you have these little boxwoods here in the corner. So it's not all boxwood, but it has the accents of it, which I think is really cool.
Right.
There's so much here.
And then I wanted to keep the interior bed sort of open in the front. So I just have it punctuated with the Green Mountain boxwoods so that it kind of can create that at the top left, the grass with the plants kind of spilling over a little bit.
Yeah, along the edges there. I thought you were looking at this. I love, of course, that luteins bench is so beautiful, but
Mhm.
this low growing edging and putting the, I love the
Right.
I love the fact that you're using that fountain of your mother, is your mother-in-law's
Grandmother-in-law.
grandmother-in-law. I love that. That's so
Mhm.
great. I designed a garden for somebody, and she had a giant teapot. It was like that's what she wanted in the center of her garden, and that was kind of fun. I don't know if she ever ended up doing that or not, but I had to figure out how to use this giant teapot. Um, but the cobble edging, look at the pathway here. Isn't that pretty? The fountains, it's just lovely. I just think you just did a really pretty job with this. Do you think you're going to put it in? Do you think you're
Oh,
going
for sure, but don't check back in October. It won't be
Okay.
finished by October.
Okay. Well, I'm very inspired. I love the elements and it really inspired me. And I love the way you've done these pathways in there. That's so perfect. I sort of, since this is the design of my garden, I'm going to steal that idea. I like it. It's good. Good work. Anybody else want to say anything about it?
I have a question. So, so I can tell that the path, like coming from your house, it's you can obviously get into that. The other ones, it looks like it's really tight to the edges. Is it like how wide is that?
So you brought that up. After I drew that in, I would have to have, I'd probably eliminate some horn beams on the bottom right.
Do you
Just
need
have,
the pathway? Because I was thinking like that'd be an awesome spot for like two nice little statues of some sort, or something where you look down on the two ends and have something that's nice to look at,
yeah, that's
Hmm.
true. I have to leave the sides open for if we ever have to get to the back and do anything, you want to plant everything as full as you can, but then you still have to think about maintenance and how, if you need to get machinery somewhere for something.
Yeah, well, you'll get there. 5-year plan. Remember, 5-year plan. You don't have to do it all
Yes,
first year.
right.
What are you putting in here where it says pollinators? Do you know?
Like just various perennials. I love yarrow and coreopsis and scabiosa and salvia, just a little bit of color.
Yep, yep. There's a wonderful seed catalog called, is it Prairie Moon? Moon Prairie Flowers. I'll put it in the things where you can get a lot of native plants and you can get them as plugs so that you don't have to pay like, $15 for a great big thing. You can actually get them as a small size and you can get a whole bunch of different things and fill them in there. That's what I have. Prairie.
So I'm in a garden club here, and we have a native garden, and we've collected the seeds and put them in a seed bank for the public to come. So it's kind of like, how people have those book banks and you can go and get a book from a random, kind of looks like a birdhouse type thing.
Yeah.
And, so we've collected seeds, and so anybody can go and open the door and take little packets of seeds and take to their own yard. So it's really neat.
Have you tried germinating those? There sometimes can be a little hard because.
No, I have not.
Yeah. Well, I like to start with plugs when it comes to those things because I can control it.
I'm way more of a plug.
I love the idea of having a seed library. We're going to talk a little bit about that, but I love that idea of doing it with the native plants. I mean, that's so important. Good work, Martha. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Love seeing your garden design. It's very inspiring. Okay, here we go. Nicole, are you with us? I hope. Nicole?
Yes, I'm here.
Yay!
Hi.
Good. Hi.
Hi. Sorry, it's black and white. I don't have any pretty color on it, but
Well, that's okay. It doesn't matter. It's good. I wasn't sure. You just sent in one, right? You were just pretty sure.
yeah.
Okay, I make sure. I had to double check that.
Yeah. So I've been thinking about this for a long time. And this is definitely my 5-year plan. But, we have, as I showed last week, we have a lot of space. We have an acre. So I kind of have a lot of, room to imagine and to plan. But I do like from your book, I like is it the cook's garden, the chef's garden?
Yeah.
So so this is my favorite design. I didn't think about adding the extra beds on the outside, kind of the C-shaped on the outside of the four-square, but I'm starting, that's kind of inspired me, and I'm starting to like that more. So I'll say a couple things. First, I don't have many herbs in here because we have another herb garden already that's pretty established. It's just in front of gate 1, which is at the bottom on the south side of the garden. We also, I don't have any alliums or garlic in here because we have raised beds where we're going to put those. We find that the deer don't touch them at all. So so it's easy over on the side of our house where it gets a lot of sun. So I don't really know where to start. The fence is kind of hard to see, but the 4 posts on
Yep.
on
I
the
can
court side, that's where they are.
The fence post right there, yeah.
Yeah, I've made we're gonna have to, you know, we have a ton of deer, so we're gonna have to get a high enough fence. But I do have some ideas on it. I wish I would have added those pictures in, but I've added some things as you've all been showing your design. So I've been adding more things, but I mean, basically it's gonna be 48 by 48 for the most part. I really like these C-shaped beds because I would like to add more perennials there, more pollinator perennials. I like the idea of adding lots of flowers there to add color to the garden and to bring in the pollinators for the garden. But I also like the idea of asparagus in one long bed, and I know it takes a while to get established. So we have no problem with sun. There's 2 large spruce trees to the left, but the sun tracks, I mean, this is the sun tracks, yeah, there. So we don't have any problem with those trees there, which is kind of nice. You know, I've already envisioned what crops I want in there. I've tried to look up companion plant, you know, the companion plants to see what will go with, you know, good companion planting. In one of the classes, the idea of the arbors on the, you know, how do I, on the corners of some of the beds are nice. I'd like the arbor with something crawling up. It's like it's they're kind of yeah, there. Yeah. So I have like 3. I think I'm not gonna do one with the main gate, which is on the south, the main gate. I'm gonna have a nice arbor there, and you know, maybe nasturtium or something climbing up. I was looking into morning glory, but I found that they're highly invasive, or anyway, I have to look at and we have woods near us. We're having a big problem with invasives in the woods, which I'm involved with the woods near us too. So anyway, I want a shed. It's going to be kind of rustic and open, just a space where it has shelves that I can, you know, pot stuff and do things and look at my seeds. And now I want a sink there. I'd like to the espalier, you know, fruit trees on the back fence. On the east fence, which is on the right side, I'd like to do my berries, blueberries and raspberries, and maybe some black raspberries. My husband wants in the second gate on the right-hand side, like hops, and one of my neighbors says that. And they're beautiful. And you know, they have a strong smell, but I'm kind of curious about that. I think I'm going to be trying out a lot of different things. I'd like to do some pots of ginger and turmeric. My compost bin is in the lower right corner. I found that the best advice for my compost bin is keep it as, right now it's as close to my house as possible. I keep it, I maintain it very well so it never smells. but it's the only way that I'm going to put stuff in it. But when this will change when I get my garden, it'll be a little further away, but I think it has to be in my garden. um I don't know what else to say. I mean, I'd like some kind of focal point, put lavender around either a bubbling fountain or a bird bath. I'd like to put a tall birdhouse somewhere here. But I have some cafe lights kind of hanging from the shed to the fence because I think I'll have room. I have 4 feet there. If not, but I'd like a table and chairs, like a little bistro table and chairs. My neighbors are my good friends here, and we all have some kind of gardens now, and it's one of our connections for our friendships. And there's one lady who's 90, and one who, we're all different ages, but it's been wonderful. We share plants and things, and I'd love a place where I can share with them, and maybe we can have lunch or tea or and with other friends too. So
That's lovely.
and I mulch, we're going to do mulch. I've also been saving like the tree cookies from our felled trees here, and I've been saving them and drying them. So I'll use them as kind of the stepping stones in
Very nice.
of the things. And I also, there was a house that they were digging up and tearing down, and there's we live in a place with lots of slate, and so I gathered a ton of those in my husband. We've got little piles of stuff all over the backyard, but I'm like, no, I'm going to use it someday. Don't get rid of it. So
That's funny. That's great.
yeah.
That's good.
I'll use
That's
that
awesome.
too.
I think you have covered just about everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you're telling a story. I'm having this vision, like you're reading a story tale, saying, and then I'm going to have this, and then I'm going to have that, and then no, it's great. It's great because you've clearly immersed yourself in the whole vision of it, and it's very exciting because you are clearly excited about it, and that's the whole point of
So
this. So
excited. Yeah.
I think it's wonderful. I think it's great. And then I'm going to have the bird bath, and then I'm going to have. It's amusing but wonderful. That's what I wanted you to do. So good. It's good. And I love the idea of the what do you call them? The stone. What are you putting in here?
People refer to them as like tree cookies or
Cookies,
stump
yes.
cookies or
Yeah.
I think
Nice.
I'm gonna have to do some things, but anyway. I've
So,
also put in yeah.
I think you might be trying to plant a lot, and you're
Okay.
going to get when I continue with the slides, I'm going to try and see if you can edit it a little bit, because I think the number one thing that most gardeners fall into is trying to plant too much, and then it gets a little, because everything was going to require, like the tomatoes, you're going to have to figure out how to stake them and prune them and each one of them. So I like the way that you've said that this is what you're going to put in, and cosmos are easy and sunflowers are easy, and that asparagus is hard. So anyways, you're on a good path. I think you might need to come back.
Ambitious. Yeah. Someone said, what are you going to feed the whole neighborhood? And our kids, our second kid's leaving for college next year. So
well, maybe you can get some of your neighbors in one of my the first book, The Complete Kitchen Garden. I had the 4 friends garden, and each friend takes a square. And then there's a table in the middle. And so, somebody's growing all the legumes, somebody grows all the greens, somebody grows all the fruiting crops, and somebody grows all the, and so then you can share, and then everybody comes together at the table. And, whether or not it's, we think these as our gardens, but if there's like the 90-year-old person who might want to do something, they could do that.
The most beautiful English gardens and raised beds and
oh, okay.
he was just plowing everybody's front yard in the snow. She's amazing. But my sister-in-law has just volunteered to come help and eat the food and help eat the food, but help. So
okay,
it's like you're hired.
Okay, that sounds great. Okay, well, there's nothing wrong with the big vision. So good work, Nicole. I like it. Samantha, are you here? I hope so. Samantha came up with these 3 very beautiful designs. Look at them. Aren't they lovely? They're such a work of art. And she actually included sort of the framework of them and then filled them in. And I just think that the simplicity, I mean, we've seen a lot of different styles of how to do these drawings and each one is so unique and so individualistic. And I just thought that this had a real charm to it. I could just see a whole book of these designs. So Samantha, I'm sorry you're not here to share, but I just want you to know that I just think it's just adorable how you've created these spaces. So there's a bench with flower containers on either side. I love the way that she's set this up with a square. And then the 2 little ones on the outside, I mean, I just think that's a unique design. And then use this as like a curved edge rather than just a square edge. And putting the garden ornaments in the corner and tomato cages on the edge. Let me just see if I can go to the next one. And the same elements here. I just think, look at that. Isn't that so pretty? Flower containers. And so I love this one too, because there's this whole bed on the outside. So maybe this is all just going to be, oh, it says herbs. So the herbs are all on their own here. And then these are the smaller garden. This just seems to me to be a perfect little tiny kitchen garden, which is so sweet. She definitely has a knack for drawing these. And then here's something we've seen this idea of the raised beds, but look how she softened it by putting something pretty on the edges and then putting flower containers in here. So I just think it's really charming. Sorry you're not here, Samantha, to tell us your process, but maybe you can share next time. I think it's great. All right. Sue, are you with us tonight? Do you know? No, we don't have any duplicates, so I don't have to actually say Sue in the last name or something. It's really been very helpful. Sue, I loved your designs too. You were so creative. Let me just show what I have here for you. I have this one and these, and you haven't fussed them up with plants and stuff. You've just kept them strictly designed, which I think is really helpful in terms of seeing the layout. So I'd love for you to share your process and how you came up with these.
Yeah, I didn't think about plants. The top area is already there. It's 20 by 30.
Mm-hmm.
It already has a fence. It was a previous owner. I think they used it as a dog run or they probably had a chicken coop, possibly. So it's an 8-foot chain link fence.
And that's in here.
Yeah. And the only structure that is in there that I reuse every year is that rectangle towards the bottom. That's a raised bed there. Yeah. And then I put tomatoes in there, and I have a bamboo structure that goes over it for a bird net. But so I think after seeing everyone's design, I think I might want to work with what I have, but possibly around that top bed, maybe do the free form flower and herbs that are on the right, because I was thinking of more of like free form paths and with straw and trying to get away from the symmetry and the raised beds, but still keep the raised bed. So I have that rectangle there, but I have a combination of curves and yeah. So then I came up with the third drawing, which is sort of a combination of the raised bed with part of it, you know, it has the traditional angles of a raised bed, but then try to incorporate some curves.
I like it. I like it. So this was an interesting process, wasn't it? To take the linear and then the crazy. I mean, you just did it. You did it so well because you're really getting to know what it is you like. And I think that you've integrated the curves and the linear so beautifully here.
Oh, thanks. I was kind of inspired by your slide presentation last class, and there was like a slide where it showed almost like a little curlicue or a spiral bed that had straw as the path.
Right.
And I thought, wow, that's
Yeah.
And my place is an old farm homestead. So formal really would not really fit the environment. But I think it can have some elements of symmetry but more of like a free form.
Yeah. And I love the way you've mirrored it. So you've taken that design. I mean, of course, looking from bird's eye view, it looks really like a wonderful painting. I can really see it. But I do think it has all the elements and just you flipped it. And I think it's really cool.
Yeah. Having to flip it was a thought process in its own, because I had to relocate the gate because it didn't make sense to have the gate on the lower one in the main path. So it's more practical having the gate at the one end. So then I had to kind of introduce some variety and some, you know, it couldn't be perfectly symmetric, right? So
how are you going to tie the two together? I mean, if this is enclosed by fence, how is this?
Yeah. Well, you know, I was looking, so there's like this, there's a super cool site, and I happened to find it by chance. It's called rusticgarden.com. And they actually have all kinds of fencing. It's more like wrought iron, Victorian. They have trellises, they have urns, they have all kinds of amazing stuff. If you have a few K to drop on ornaments, but the shipping is free. But they have like, you ought to take a look. I mean, they have awesome stuff. And some of it appears to be, so they make it on site, I think. And they do have benches, chairs, but they have some really nice gates. And so they do have a fence that might complement what is there. And I think it's called a double roll top loop fence. So it is like a galvanized wire fence, but it kind of has an ornamental top. So I thought, wow, you know, that might actually complement the ugly fence that's there. You know, it's not as high, but you know, it wouldn't look like, or I could go without a fence and I could do the lower half just in flowers and herbs, which
you could take this edge off in some way so they're connected.
Yeah.
Well, it's good. Again, I just wonder about this gap in between, if you wanted to tie them together in some way or put a bench or some little.
I think I did originally have a bench there. It'd be nice for a series of arbors too, but
well, you've done some nice work here. I look forward to seeing what you come up with. There's something about this that very, very pleasing, but I do think that having this is a little bit more organic, this lovely pathway in here. So if you can fit that in, it looks nice. Focal point, love that. All right, I'm going to keep moving along, Sue. Good job. Nice. Thank you. Thank you. Teresa, are you with us?
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, good. Hi.
Hi.
So you have 2 designs.
Yes,
Look how cool those are. Did you have fun doing this?
I did. It looked a little Christmassy, but I couldn't figure out how to make it not look Christmassy.
I looks a little space age. I kind of love the way this is sort of drawn in perspective. You just feel like you're going zoom.
It
Right
does.
in.
I thought it was really cool.
Yeah.
But building it would be a nightmare, and maintaining it would be a nightmare.
Oh
For
dear.
me. The round one.
The round one, yeah.
Yeah.
I think so too. I think so too. So you prefer this one, and this is
It-
probably the one you're
yeah.
going to do.
Yeah, it's more practical.
Yeah.
They originally had a lavender hedge, which I loved, but I couldn't figure out how to access the boxes, the squares. And
Mhm.
I think Martha, I think I might steal something from hers where she has all the, I love boxwoods, but I think mine all have blight, so I have to move away from boxwoods. So I think I might replicate something of what she did with her boxwoods, and then she has like a path going through it. I liked that, so I might look
Yeah.
at my squares again and incorporate some of what she did.
Great.
Get that lavender back in there.
That's great. Good. Well, you're on the right track. Are you excited about this? Was this helpful to you for visualizing?
Yeah, I really like it. I think it'll be fun, and it's an unused section of my yard, so it'll be really nice to give it a purpose.
Well, I love the way it's right next to the house, and so you're really going to use it off the patio, directly off the patio. It's really a nice way to sort of bring everything together in that space.
Yeah.
That's good. All right, I'm going to keep going here. And get back to seeds. But thank you, everybody, and thank you for sharing. And I do hope that you're getting ideas from each other, because that's beneficial. Seed catalogs. How many of you have seed catalogs hanging out? Have you taken time to look at them? Have you put little Post-it notes on them? Have you started ordering? Well, I took some time last weekend, and I have about 8 catalogs that all have little Post-it notes on them, and then I'm going to go back and look at them again. But I generally end up ordering online, so it's amazing to me that seed catalogs still show up in my mailbox. But I do think that one of the things that many gardeners don't really know is, what is the average seed longevity for seeds? And do we have to buy seeds every year? Or can we store seeds? And this is from the Fedco seed catalog. And beans can generally last 2 to 3 years. I find that they can actually sometimes go as much as 4 to 5 years. Something like carrots, which are in the umbelliferae family, I generally don't keep them beyond 2 years. I'm not sure why they say 2 to 3 years. Melons, 5 to 10 years. Isn't that amazing? Pumpkin and squash, 2 to 5 years. Tomatoes, 5 to 10 years. But of course, this is if you keep them in good condition. And what does it mean by good condition? It generally doesn't mean just keeping them in those paper seed packets that they arrive in and then just sticking them in the basement somewhere, because the basement is going to get hot and cold and dry and wet. It generally means taking pretty good care of them, like sticking them in a jar with some seed desiccant or something like that. I know some people keep their seeds in the refrigerator or the freezer, and honestly, that's not the best place either. The refrigerator tends to have a lot of open of the door, shut the door, so the moisture content can get into those seeds. Same with the freezer. The freezer will suck out all the moisture from those seeds. So when you actually take them out of the freezer, they're going to just absorb as much moisture as they can. So really finding what works for you. I often keep them inserted into a plastic bag and then organize them. But really, you know, sometimes I just let them go on a little too long, and I have to be reminded that, that's why we have seed catalogs. And some of my earliest catalog years were buying from Burpee, and I love looking at the old seed covers, the beautiful tomato and that gorgeous sweet pea. And I just wish that we still had seed catalogs that were really just based on illustrations rather than photographs. They're so seductive. And Burpee's was one of the earliest seed catalogs, but the very first seed catalog was Landreth, which was in 1784. And they really paved the way for seed catalogs. And then, of course, the Shakers had seeds as well. But the idea of seed catalogs is relatively recent. But many of the old Landreth varieties gave a lot of information for what they call the family kitchen garden. How should a truck patch be laid out? I just love reading some of these old seed catalogs and seeing how they describe gardening and how people would grow food. The old style of garden, laid out in squares to be dug and cultivated exclusively by hand. And of course, that would probably be like our Foursquare that we're trying to do now, is becoming a thing of the past. The vegetable garden is now laid out in parallel rows or drills ranging from 2 to 3 feet apart, and the cultivation of the greater part done by horsepower, as has been done frequently taught in the pages of our almanac. And it goes on and on and on. But there's just so much information. And so for me, these catalogs, when I look back at them, are more than just trying to sell seed. They're really getting the gardener involved in the education around how to grow and how to lay out the garden. And then, of course, look at the price of the seeds. A whole flower collection you can buy for $1 in boxes of 25 papers each, ready for mailing. You can get alyssum and aster and balsam. I don't even know what balsam is. It's an old flower that we don't grow anymore. Cardiosperm, and I don't know what that is. I guess bellflower vine. There's so many of these old varieties that we don't even grow anymore. Rosardia or Dorota, mignonette. How many of you have grown mignonette? I have, but it's not the most gorgeous flower. But I just love looking at these things that we don't even know what they are anymore. I also love in the old Landreth catalog this offer, $450 in prizes, crop of 1884. We offer the following prizes to purchasers of our seeds. Each report to be sworn to and double witness before a justice of the peace or a notary public. $15 to the producer of the heaviest Landreth Both's winter watermelon. $10 for the second heaviest, $15 to the producer of the greatest weight of marketable onions grown from 1 pound each of seeds. So this is a way to get people to buy specific seeds, which I think is so ingenious. So, if you have a chance to be able to go through old seed catalogs, you can just Google old seed covers online, and you're probably going to get a copy of this early Landreth catalog from 1784. And you got to remember, these are the catalogs that Thomas Jefferson bought seeds from, and probably not as far back as George Washington, but there's just so much history when you look at the garden seed catalogs and think about how many generations have been growing gardens, and where we are in our garden knowledge now, which is really so minimal that at one point everybody knew how to grow gardens. Everybody had food in their backyards. And now we're really sort of becoming a rare species. So it's great that you're going to be inspiring your neighbors to grow a beautiful food garden, because that's really what we need to do as gardeners, is to inspire others. Look at this wonderful old, I mean, they didn't have color photography back then, but even a picture like this, I don't think I'd be able to choose which one I would want to grow. But it's sort of, when you contrast this picture with the picture that I showed you that my photographer took of the beans and legumes, you can see we've come a long way in terms of artful garden photography as well. So just the basic nuts and bolts of seed packets. It's really hard to make a decision where to buy seed and who to buy seed from. And every time we go into a garden nursery or a hardware store or a, even a supermarket, we're hit with these racks and we spin them around and say, oh, I'll try this and I'll try that, because there's nothing more enchanting than a beautiful photograph on a seed packet. But honestly, many of the seed packets that are featured in the rack packs have been packed the September before, because they had to take whatever seed they had probably from the year before and put them in packets, because those packets have to be delivered to the stores no later than January 1st, because they're going to be starting to be set out on the shelves. And so oftentimes it's not the freshest seed. The fresher seed will be the seed that you buy directly from the catalog, because they have cultivated that seed. Many seed catalogs don't grow their own seeds anymore. They buy them from seed producers. And sometimes even seed catalogs make mistakes. I wanted you to see what happened to me one year when I was buying Johnny seed, which looks like a artichoke seed, and I can't remember. Oh, this is the seeds of Italy, looks like an artichoke seed, but this was a seed packet that didn't look like artichoke seed, and I think it was a mistake. It looks like mustard seed to me. So getting to know your seeds, like I was talking about earlier on, and recognizing seeds will really help you, if just in case your seed catalog made a mistake. Now, I like to buy seeds from catalogs where I really feel that they know the growing. They're either growers themselves or they've grown their own seeds. But more than that, they want to teach you to be good growers, and they're going to give you that information. They're not just trying to sell you something pretty with beautiful, what we like to call in the industry food porn, by showing you gorgeous pictures of ripe tomatoes. But they're going to tell you how to read their catalog so that you get what you really want to plant in your garden, because seeds have become pretty expensive now. I did a comparison of the 9 catalogs that I have here, and Johnny's was like $5.65 for a packet of seed, where Pine Tree was $2.95 for a packet of seed. But I know they're going to have different amounts, so it's going to take really figuring out how much do I get for $5 and how much do I get for $2, and what is the, whether it's organic seed, whether it's open pollinated seed, whether it's hybrid seed. These are all kinds of things. The OSSI is very important. There's a group of seed catalogs that are proud supporters of the Open Source Seed Initiative, an effort and a consortium of seed folks, farmers, breeders, academics, and others to keep as many seed varieties as possible in the public domain. Who supplies our seeds? As I said, not every seed catalog grows their own seed, and many of them grow some of them, but not all of them. So I love the way Fedco is very clear that small farmers, including Fedco staff, family-owned companies, and cooperatives, seeds are complicated. They're not as simple as they seem by just ordering a packet and putting it in your garden. So really getting to read your seed catalog and getting to understand what you're buying. Lettuce types. When we had our seed catalog, we actually set up our lettuce based on the seasons, because there's spring lettuces and there's summer lettuces and fall and winter. And most of us buy lettuce types based on what we like to eat, whether it's a butterhead or a crisp head or a loose leaf or romaine. But sometimes these butterheads don't do very well in the summer. They're really better in the spring and the fall. So that helps to know what is the best season for growing that lettuce. So things to look for would be open pollinated versus hybrid, the size of the packet, how many seeds are in each packet to make sure that you have enough and you're getting your money's worth, the cost of the packet, a flavor profile, which again, most seed companies don't care about flavor very much. They just want you to know that it's disease resistant, or it's something that is going to grow be more productive than different varieties. And planting instructions, number of days to maturity is something that I used to look for, because in Vermont we had a very short window of growing. Now our season has extended, but I know I can't grow watermelon, for instance, because we don't have enough number of days to maturity. And whatever information you can get from seed catalogs is important. High Mowing is a company in Vermont, and they grow a lot of hybrids. You know, they make a big deal about growing their own seeds, but they're not growing these hybrids. They're getting these hybrids because they know that gardeners want them. They have a high percentage of their customers are going to be market growers, and market growers are more interested in growing very high yield varieties. So they're going to be looking for those F1 hybrids versus home gardeners, which are probably looking for something that has more flavor and is more of an heirloom. Johnny's, you know, they offer commercial growers and home gardeners. So if you want to grow something in quantity, they will certainly give you an option to do that. And they have a wonderful selection of salad greens. This is Baker Creek. This is what I would consider food porn. They have beautiful photographs, but honestly, there's not really enough information to know whether it's something that I can grow or that I actually want to grow. So, you know, just be very careful about who you order your seeds from. I love Select Seed. I talked about them and how they really focus on the heirloom varieties, the vintage flowers, and I was really into growing all the types of flowers that matched my old house. It was built in 1903, and I love to find flowers that I like to think were at one time growing around my house rather than modern flowers. Seeds of Italy is also a catalog that I get a lot of things from. They have a wonderful bean called the Triomphe de Violetto, which is a wonderful runner bean, and it's absolutely delicious. But they also have a lot of Italian chicories and dandelion greens and different kinds of things that you can't get in a lot of the American seed catalogs. So just do a little digging. And order now. I don't know if you can get a garlic order in, but wow, what a lot of different garlic. Garlic is not just garlic. You can try all these different varieties, and this is where I'd love to introduce my 80-20 rule to you, because I really I like to grow 80% tried and true and 20% something new and different. And then that 20% sometimes can be all garlic or all nasturtiums or all beans or just something. So I get to know which variety I really want to grow. Now I have a breakout room set up here, but I'm watching the clock, and we're not going to be, we just don't have time. We did too much talking about the plans, but be thinking about your 80-20 rule. What do you always grow? What do you love to grow each year? For me, that would be lettuce and salad greens and chard and kale, and I'm going to show you some of my favorites. And what 20% would you like to try that's new and different this year? So another one of my favorite catalogs is Wild Garden Seed, and they're a small company. They're regionally adapted. They're out in Oregon. They're a family business. They have open pollinated seeds, so that's one of the reasons I support them. But the more than that, they have really taken the time to educate farmers and growers on how to be seed savers and how to develop small regional seed catalogs. So you're going to find a lot when you start digging deeper, and you're going to see that there's so many different small seed catalogs, and it's hard to order from a lot of different ones because you're going to be paying postage and so on. But try and some more support as many of the small regional catalogs as you possibly can. And just a listing of these, and I will continue to offer listings in the resources. Prairie Road Organic Seed, Grand Prismatic Seeds. These are in Utah. Triple Divide Seed Company, Montana. Hudson Valley Seed in New York. True Love Seed in Pennsylvania. This is the company that's going to be doing the presentation. I mean, these are all seed companies that I'd never even heard of. Turtle Tree Biodynamic Seeds, and most of them specialize in one type of plant. You know, maybe it's a tomato or a salad green, but some of them offer as many different kinds of open pollinated seeds as they can grow. And it's a great way to supplement what they're doing. Most of these companies have been growing organic vegetables for their local, you know, farmers market, and this is just another way to supplement their income. So it's another reason to give them the business. So when you start getting your seed catalogs, when you've ordered your seeds and you started to get your packets in, this is what I do. Step number one is I look at the date on the back of my seed packets and I toss them. I usually keep most varieties for about 3 to 4 years, and then I decide that they're not going to be working anymore and I replace them. And step number two is I organize by when to sow. And there's a chart in the resources of how to set this up and start making a list which ones need to be started indoors and which ones you can direct sow outdoors. This is not the way I organize it, but this is a good example of how to start setting it up. The lettuce and the spinach usually go together, and they can be one of the first crops to go out. Then there's the cool broccoli, cabbage, and kale, and the peas and beans. And again, if you can organize them by plant family, it will help you organize them in your garden. So this is what I supplied in the resources is an Excel spreadsheet that looks something like this. One year I was planting all of these different varieties. Can you believe it? The Triunfo de Violetto I got from Seeds of Italy, and I'll direct sow those in May and June. All of these beans I'll direct sow. I don't start them early inside. Same with the carrots and the chervil and the collards. But I try to start some things inside, like the beets, or those are direct sowed. So I guess I'm mostly in this particular year, I direct sowed everything outside. Now, seed libraries are one of these wonderful things that are coming back again. They were very popular. One of you in this class, I can't remember which one of you was talking about having the native plants seed library. And we have a seed library at our local library, and the Paulet Public Library has one, the Charlotte Library. And this is something that if you really get into seed saving, it's a really worthwhile thing to set up, because at one point people couldn't afford, if you know, there are people who can't afford seeds, we'll just put it that way. And at one point farmers would grow a lot of seeds and they would bring their seeds to the library, and then anybody who wanted seeds could borrow those seeds, grow out the crop, and then return the crop in the fall. And I just think that that concept is so important in terms of building community. And so, you know, do a little research about what a seed library is, and if it's something that you're really interested in doing, it might be worth contacting your library to get that set up. Okay, we're just going to start trying to identify a few more of these seeds. Does anybody know what this is right here? It's a Jacob's cattle bean, another beautiful bean. This is one of my favorite Seeds of Italy crops, which, oh, I'm not supposed to tell you. Does anybody know what this is? Bean seeds. And anybody know what this is?
Corn.
Corn, right. So these are cattle beans. I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead because I'm looking at the clock. Last night I ran out of time too, and I thought, oh, tonight I'm not going to be so late, but I'm sorry, this is a long class. Cattle beans, Annalino beans. I just love the taste of these beans. I'll show you another picture when I go through as we continue, but they have this wonderful curly cube shape, and they're a pole bean, and they don't look like much. They don't look very fancy, but they are just delicious tasting. And I really encourage you to try those this year. And this Jacob's cattle bean is an old-fashioned bean, and look how beautiful they are. These are grown on a farm in New Hampshire, and I got a whole bunch at one point to give out to seeds. To give out to kids at a school event. And this is glass corn, which is an ornamental, beautiful popcorn. So what to grow? I'm just going to show you what I love to grow. I grow all kinds of mesclun. Mesclun really just means miscellaneous greens. It's usually you buy mixed packets with arugula and chicory and lettuce and dill and mosh and fennel and chervil and cilantro and mustards. The unfortunate thing is that that's all these different seeds grow at different rates. And so the arugula is going to grow very fast. The dill is going to take its time. The mosh may not grow at all. The chervil will grow, but it'll grow very low. So one of the ways I get around that is I actually mix together my own mesclun, and I buy a packet of arugula and cilantro and cress and winter chervil and different types of lettuce and purslane, and then I'll sow them in individual rows and then mix them together so that they all can come together in the salad bowl, and one doesn't dominate the other. One of the things that Wild Garden Seed does is that when you order mesclun from there or a salad mix, they break it up into spring mix, summer mix, and fall mix. But you can also have 2 packets of seeds inside. So one is for slow germinating, and you plant those first, and then a week later you plant out the fast germinator, and that way that all the seeds have a better chance of catching up, because you want to be able to taste all those flavors. If you're going to be growing 12 different types of seeds in a mesclun packet, you want to be able to enjoy all those wonderful flavors. And then getting to know your lettuces. What is a winter lettuce? The lettuce on the left is winter density, and that will grow very nicely in the fall and in the winter, and it's got a thicker leathery leaf, whereas the butterhead is a wonderful spring green and right into early summer, and one is very sweet and one requires a different type of a dressing. And then this red iceberg, which I think I showed in one of the earlier slides. This is the reason you are all gardening, because you can grow this in your garden, but you won't be able to buy it in a grocery store. And to be able to say to your friends, I'm serving iceberg lettuce, and they go, oh my God, you have a garden and you're serving iceberg? Why are you doing that? Well, you say, because I have this fancy heirloom red iceberg lettuce, and my garden is the only place you're ever going to taste it. And honestly, look at that beautiful lettuce. I just don't think there's a prettiest lettuce. And why aren't we finding these all over? Why are we just so limited in the grocery stores to green leaf and red leaf lettuce? It's just such a disheartening state of affairs, but that's why we're gardening. And same with mosh or feldsalat. Anybody who's been to Europe, to Germany, especially during the winter, the farmers markets are filled with feldsalat. It's a wonderful, cool weather green, and you just never find it in this country. But yeah, but you've traveled to Europe and everybody knows what mosh or feldsalat is. So you can try growing this in your garden, and again, you can impress your friends and say, well, I'm growing feldsalat, and they'll go, well, what's that? So there's your opportunity to educate and inspire your friends to also become gardeners. And something like rainbow chard, I love the fact that it's really the workhorse of the garden. It's such a good cut and come again. The more you cut, the more you get, and you can plant it in your perennial beds. You can plant it in your window boxes. You can make a hedge out of it. It's a wonderful green, and it's one of the few greens in my garden that the deer and the rabbits won't eat. So I have an abundance of it. And something like basil, there's over 80 different kinds of basil, and everybody grows the sweet Genovese and maybe the opal basil pictured here, but there's cinnamon basil and lemon basil and lime basil and Thai basil and piccolo verde basil, which is a tiny leafed, very pungent basil, and holy basil, and it's very easy to grow from seed, so you're not really dependent on what you get in the garden center. You can start with a seed and put it directly in the garden, and you're very likely to have a really abundant crop of basil. Endive is a great substitute for lettuce if you have hot summers, and it grows in the Mediterranean, so you know it's going to do very well. I love just a little bit in a salad because it's kind of bitter, but it really brings up the flavor. And all chicories are wonderful in salads. And the Rosa di Treviso, and I don't know what the other one, the Biondo di Lis, I think often the heirloom varieties from Italy are named after the region where they grew. The Rosa di Treviso is from Treviso, Italy, and I don't know that much about the Biondo di Lis, but they're so beautiful. And again, you're not going to find those anyplace else but your own garden. So really focus on the foods that you can't buy, that are real delicacies and really gourmet. And of course, edible flowers, we've talked a lot about adding flowers and just branch out a lot. This is a borage flower. I don't think I saw this in anybody's garden, but I highly recommend it. It's got this lovely little pale blue edible flower that tastes like cucumber, and it grows to be about 5 feet tall, and the bumblebees just can't get enough of it. And the chive blossoms, and these are little lemon gem marigolds. They're not like the big smelly marigolds. They're more delicate, and they have a foliage that's very lemon scented, and I highly recommend those in your garden too, planting them at the entrance, so when you brush into the garden, you'll get a lovely fragrance of lemon. And nasturtiums, there's so many different kinds of nasturtiums. We saw that in the select seed catalog. And one year I grew 22 different kinds of nasturtiums, and I found that every one of them is a different mounding. Some are small, some are big, some are trailing, some are, you can do so much with nasturtiums in a garden, and especially delicious in a salad. And something like potatoes, we kind of ignore potatoes, but there's so many old heirloom varieties, and it's really sad that in the grocery stores, all we have are the Yukon Golds and the red Norlands and the Idahos, when you can grow all blues, or you can do some of those French fingerlings, and you can really get a lot of flavor out at some of the old heirloom varieties. So try getting some potatoes in the ground and compare them to the ordinary ones, and you'll never go back to the ordinary again. And same with alpine strawberry. I've mentioned alpine strawberry as a wonderful edging plant for those of you who have raised beds. They're the perfect thing to put along the edge of a raised bed because they'll drape over, and they don't have runners, so they're not going to be moving. They're going to have them for 20 years in the same place, and you're going to have an abundance of these sweet little tender, almost buttery kind of berries that produce all summer long. Snap peas, we all love snap peas, and collards. I love looking at the way collards grow. They're such an ornamental plant, and they're so easy to grow. Look at the size of those leaves. Aren't they wonderful? And something like top setting Egyptian onions. These are called walking onions. Again, an old-fashioned variety that you sow the seeds that are growing on the top, and they're called walking onions because if you don't harvest them, they'll fall over and replant themselves and start walking across the garden. And they're so pretty in flower arrangements. They're just fun to grow. So take a look at finding some top setting onions. And artichokes, I grow artichokes in my garden in Vermont. I've found different varieties that grow well. I usually buy my plants because they need to be started fairly early in the season, and I don't have a great spot for growing. But there's such an ornamental plant, and if you don't harvest this will turn into a beautiful big blue thistle, and you can dry that and also use it in a flower arrangement. And all of you, I'm so pleased to see, are really focusing on culinary herbs. It's in a cook's garden, in any kind of kitchen garden, having culinary herbs is so important. And remembering how to bake bread. This is a recipe that's been in all of my cookbooks. It's a lovely, fragrant herb bread, and maybe I'm making a note to post that because it's a very easy recipe, and so many of us have given up baking bread because we can buy it, and this is one of these recipes that's going to make you say, oh my gosh, how come I didn't know this beforehand? So remembering to put lots of herbs in our garden. This is comfrey on the left hand side. Comfrey is a medicinal herb. I think some of you have put medicinal herbs in your garden. They're really important if you like doing the more natural approach to medicine. One time my husband broke his leg, and I made him a poultice of this comfrey. We had a lot of comfrey growing, and because the doctor said, no, we can't put a cast on it. Well, he went back 2 weeks later, and the doctor said, my God, what did you do? Well, the other name for comfrey is called knit bone. And so that comfrey poultice was somehow having a magic effect on putting his bones back together. So medicinal herbs are, again, one of those things that we've sort of lost the tradition of growing and using, but if you can bring them back into your repertoire, you'll be rewarded. Cape gooseberry, I'm going to speed up a little bit here because I'm watching the clock and I feel like a talking head, but these are all things I'm just hoping that maybe you're jotting down notes and may introduce them. I didn't see anybody with Cape gooseberry in their garden design, so maybe this is something you'd like to add. It's a golden tomatillo, otherwise known as a ground husk cherry, and the story behind this, according to the Seed Savers catalog, is that they have one called Aunt Molly's Cape gooseberry, and and this variety was about to go extinct. Nobody had grown it for years, and somebody found a packet in their Aunt Molly's drawer, and there were only 5 seeds there, and they started growing them, and it's a variety that's come back, and they're very sweet. They look like a little cherry tomato, but they're even sweeter than a cherry tomato, and they grow inside that little paper husk, and they're just a charming little plant. Of course, heirloom tomatoes need no introduction. We all love heirloom tomatoes, but when we first started growing them for our farm stand and they looked like they had cat facing and blemishes, people didn't want to buy them. So we had to cut them all up and offer tasting samples. And then of course we didn't have enough to go around. So put as many heirloom tomatoes as you possibly can in your garden. Some of my favorites are Brandywine and Big Rainbow and Green Zebra and Persimmon. And if you have a good crop of tomatoes, bring everybody down. I need everybody to come down to the garden to cheer on the tomatoes. And nothing like showing off your garden during cocktail hour. So cosmic purple carrots and others, cucumbers, lemon, wonderful old heirloom variety that are about the size of an apple, and they grow round and they're yellow and they're a little prickly, but once you brush those prickles off, they're a wonderful thing to eat in the garden. And that's a great picture here of my Annalino bean that I love so much. These are 2 pole beans that I always have in my garden, and I save the seeds, so I always have them available. The Annalino, and also the Triunfo de Violetto, which is a gorgeous purple flower and a very vigorous vine. And I'm not sure why I have this picture here, but we'll just keep going. I'm going to run out of time, but thank you for listening. And so starting seeds, everybody has their own system. This is mine. It's not fancy. I know a lot of people really love those soil blocks, and some year I'm going to transfer over to those, but I've had these little plastic seed trays for many years. I reuse them over and over and over, and to me it's just the easiest way to get seeds sown in a small space and have a lot of variety. So you see here in each one of these I have lettuce. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lettuce plants and this is, this will just fit in very neatly in one of my cold frames. So this is my system and the way I start my seeds. I don't have a greenhouse, but everybody has their own system. And we're going to talk a little bit more about soil and seed starting in the next class when we start focusing on tools and soil and how to start really cultivating your garden in a healthy and fairly simple way, because I don't believe in having a lot of extra material tools around. But this is just wanted you to, I put this picture in to let you see that I do use peat pots occasionally, and I'm not the greatest gardener because I don't have a wonderful greenhouse. These things are a little bit leggy, but I think these are zinnia seeds, but I'm not perfect. I'm not looking for perfection. I'm just looking for being able to do something in an efficient way. And notice none of these actually germinated at all, but that was a number of years ago. Hopefully I have better success this year. But really the best way to start seeds, as far as I'm concerned, is directly in the ground. So often I start things ahead of time, and then the chipmunks invade my cold frames, or I forget to open the cold frame, or I forget to water. But really just being able to sow something directly into the ground is absolutely the best way to do it. And I love to succession plant, which means I'll put in 5 or 6 rows of lettuce one week and then plant another 5 or 6 rows the next week, and just keep a succession of different lettuces. You can see these are very mature lettuces, and these are ones that are probably a couple weeks old, and I've saved space in between so that I can keep planting, and then I just always have an abundance of beautiful lettuce to harvest and put in my salad bowl. Is it cheating to buy plants for an instant garden? This is a garden that I put in, or somebody put in. I can't really remember where this is. And no, of course not. When you are going to a good garden center and they have a nice array of small plants, go ahead and get started early. But it is nice to grow a lot of things from seed, because it gives you that satisfaction of being able to put that seed in the ground and watch it grow. And then once it's ready to harvest, you get that wonderful feeling of, gosh, I grew this from a little seed and now I have a beautiful head of lettuce. So love is all you seed. Your homework for this week is to find 3 new to you seed catalogs. And make a wish list of 12 favorite seed varieties. You know, if you can limit it to 12 and make them successful, I think you're going to feel very good about what you have accomplished. Don't feel like you need to try everything that first year. You're going to have many years ahead of you to try different things. So just choose 12 of your favorite seed varieties and then follow the 80-20 rule. Maybe, you know, find 6 or 4 things that you haven't tried before. Maybe that's going to be the Cape gooseberry or the artichokes, and then see if you can fit everything into your garden plan. These will be up on the resources, the different places where I get my seeds from Wild Garden Seed. I get all my mesclun seeds. Fruition Seed, unfortunately, is no longer going. Select Seed, I get my heirloom flowers, and Floret is a wonderful place for flowers. Their packets are pretty expensive, though. Filari Garlic is where I get my garlic and onions and seeds of Italy. I get my Italian beans and chicories, and that's the end of the lesson, but I want to just leave you with this because I feel this has been you know, like this has been a tough week for a lot of us. And just remembering that we just spent 2.5 hours not thinking about politics. So good for us. Thank you. Thank you for the escape time. And don't go turn on PBS now. Just like work on your garden design, start looking at seed catalogs, and enjoy the evening. Are there any questions? Adrienne has her hand raised. Yes.
I did. I'm catching up doing my garden design, but one of the questions that I did have this past week is I have a beehive and I keep on debating, do I bring it in the garden, like the market garden, or do I leave it outside the market garden? And I wasn't quite sure your thoughts on should I bring the hive in or do I leave it out? I don't know. What
Are
is
you
the
putting bees in it? Are you actually putting bees in it?
Oh, yeah, yeah. So I produce honey as well. Um,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
there wasn't enough flowers around. So when I planted the first year, not a lot of things were pollinated. And I was like, why is this happening? I need to get bees. I need pollinators around me. So brought bees in, and the bonus was the honey. But now it's like, I don't know. I could create a space for a hive in the garden, but I didn't know, is that what most people do? Or is that common? Or is it to leave it in a field?
I
Mm,
have bees, and I can tell you like my 2 cents worth on that.
yeah.
If you bring them too close to your garden, obviously you're going to run into them sometimes when they're in and out of their hive because they're always going to be going in and out of their hive. You also can't just, I mean, they're heavy for one thing, so you're going to try to move them, but you can only move them like a few feet a day because they know where their hive is. I
Yeah.
have a little pond, and bees are super duper duper good at finding water. So if you want them in your garden, put like a bird bath or something, and I bet you anything they will find that super fast. And then they'll kind of browse the fact that they've got the flowers there and everything too.
Yeah, it
That's
was
great advice. Thank you.
No, I really love that idea because I was like, I really don't want to move it, but I like the decorative piece that it could be.
No, I mean, bees travel up to 3 miles, don't they? I mean, they'll find your garden. I love the idea of the bird bath or something because they need water. So that's really important.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're better not in the garden because they've got a purpose and they'll go, jing, jing, jing. You're going to get stung if you get in their way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I had bees for a number of years and then I got bears and the bears kind of just kept toppling things over, but I gave it up. That's a good question, though. And nobody's talked about bees, so that's important for us to be thinking about it. Bees. I also, you know, there's a lot of theory now of not keeping domestic bees because they are deterring the natural pollinators, and so I think, you know, we really haven't talked much about pollinators, but one of the things I encourage you to do is when you put your bench in the garden and you sit on that bench, is just notice how many different kinds of pollinators you have in your garden. I think we're so busy all the time just trying to get things done. Like you know, like honeybees themselves. And so noticing is going to be a really important piece of this garden for you. Yeah. All right. It's late. I don't know. I don't know how we do. I don't know how you're still here 2.5 hours later. Oh my gosh. So, if there's no more questions, I'm going to sign off and just say it's been a pleasure and thank you so much. And you're doing great work. I feel so excited to see the next step.
Thank you.
Good. All right.
Ellen.
See ya. Bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you.